Yeah, I could lick those eyeballs. Slurp up that Praxis juice. Let's get it going, friends. And let me know how the audio balancing is, okay? Oh, and do you guys want to know something interesting? I have never watched a single David Pakman video today. Not a single one. What is he, the Majority Report or the David Pakman Show? I don't even fucking know. I have never in my life watched a single video of this person. I've only seen pictures of him. So let's see where that takes us.
Okay, I think we are live on the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. I have Tim Pool with
We are not going through this at normal speed. Again, please do let me know what the audio balancing is like.
with me, who hopefully we are also live on your platform soon, Tim. How are things looking over there?
Not good. It's not working.
Good. It's not okay. Well, we'll give Tim a second to get things rolling. I'll just welcome everybody on my YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different stuff, including platforming, censorship, free speech. It's going to be quite a list. And if people aren't familiar with Tim, maybe we'll get to know him in a little bit. Tim,
oh yeah, we will.
Is working on getting us going on his channel as well.
I'm just going to do a new stream, I guess.
All right, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
No problem. So for people, I mean, it kind of works out okay because people are, we'll give people time to get in here.
Do you realize how big you would get if you released videos daily like these dumb reactionaries? I literally release 6 videos a week. I don't know what you want from me. I literally spend like 8 to 10 hours a day working. If I'm not streaming, I'm doing other stuff. Please, don't ask me to make more content. I'm trying. I don't have an editor.
We have a whole bunch of new clips scheduled to go live on the David Pakman Show YouTube channel for the rest of the day. I think there's going to be some good stuff in there that people will like. Many people liking the David Pakman off of social media topic, and I followed up on that on today's program. There's a clip that I think goes live at maybe 10:30 p.m. Eastern related to that.
Boring.
Pool conversation on both of our channels.
By the way, I just want to point out, isn't it funny that just 10 years ago, the common image of like the archetypical conservative versus the archetypical liberal or progressive was one in which the conservative dresses up in like a button-up shirt and has nice like slick back hair with the side part and stuff and looks like nice and professional and clean shaven, and it was the dirty like liberal who would show up like scraggly beard and a beanie, just kind of wearing whatever, you know. It's fun. Like, listen, I have nothing wrong with people who dress scraggly. I've literally done my stream in like a tank top and underwear, okay? Like literal pajamas. So I'm not giving him shit like intrinsically on this. It's just funny how the perspective warped. Also, I got a few emails. I'm sorry for making fun of Tim Pool's teeth. Listen, I've dated an English woman, okay? I don't have anything intrinsically wrong with fucked up teeth. It's just because they're attached to Tim Pool. I will, however, maintain that the beanie shit is fucking stupid. It's clearly driven by insecurity. This is not a fashion beanie, okay? This is a I'm terrified of being bald beanie, which is so fucking unattractive, okay? But I can't know. I don't know if Tim Pool's beanie is his like terrified insecurity, or if it's like a protective measure against his soft, watery brain. Like, what if Tim Pool's skull cap just feels like a hemisphere of jello? Like, if you took the beanie off and flicked it, it would wobble a little bit like this, and he would see blurry for a minute? I don't know. That would explain his videos. To those of you who have just donated, by the way, I'm gonna have to get to it in chunks, because this is gonna be a fucking long one. I love you guys. Let's get started.
Channels. And setting up a new stream and all of that stuff. How would you rate it? How is it going, Tim, like between 1 and 10?
It's going really bad. I have no idea why. It's giving me the business. Yeah, it's not.
All right.
Okay,
so
no problem.
issues.
So we'll give Tim a second to do that.
Well, yeah.
I don't even know if it's a disagreement, but we had a conversation on Twitter that led to this conversation.
Yeah, so I posted a tweet where I...
Okay, I think we're actually at the political content now. All right, let's do it. Good. Oh, wait a second. Are those skateboards in the background of Tim Pool? No! Tim Pool, your skull is soft and malleable. If you tripped while riding one of those skateboards, if you fell forward and hit your head would literally, like you'd be gone. It'd be like a perfectly... That'd be it. Your soft jelly-like brain would just flatten like a dome just collapsing. All right, I'm sorry. We're supposed to be doing serious political commentary here.
I said, I can't really remember, something about why should social media companies be exempt from civil rights law?
Right.
Whoa! That's what he let. Oh, please let this. I'm gonna end up disagreeing with Pakman and Tim Pool here, because the only conceivable, the only acceptable, politically accurate response from Pakman, if Tim Pool starts bringing up this like social media deplatforming censorship shit, would just be for David Pakman to say "fuck off, idiot" and end the stream. Okay, I have a feeling I'm gonna end up disagreeing with both of them here. Why should social media companies be exempt from civil rights law? An excellent question, Tim. The answer is they're not. Social media companies, being businesses, have to adhere to the same protected class legislations that other businesses have to adhere to. It just turns out being a Nazi isn't a protected class. Fascinating. Maybe one day we can get that pushed through the Supreme Court, okay? So we've got race, gender, ethnicity, age, marital status, national origin, and then we have whether or not you're a Nazi. And these are the things you can't be discriminated against. Let's go.
And then you responded with, I think this is a good faith attempt, but a bad take.
Right.
Not a good faith attempt. Anyone who accuses Tim Pool of being in good faith is themselves either stupid, overly charitable, or acting in bad faith. Tim Pool claims to be a liberal moderate, but every single thing he does reps the alt-right and plays defense for fascists. Literally everything he does. If I say, hey guys, I'm a leftist, and then all I do is like put out videos on the Great Replacement and white genocide and the Jewish question, I would not fault you for doubting the sincerity of my claim.
Responded, I don't know exactly what the thread was, but it was essentially, for me, the issue comes about, for one, with the constant talk of censorship on social media and the idea that
it's not censorship.
You know, these platforms have become so powerful, they're actually influencing elections.
Yes.
So we shouldn't let private companies just do whatever they want.
You have a problem with private companies influencing elections? What about the fucking military-industrial contract with their no-bid contracts from the government that coincide every time a right-winger wants to go to war? What about all the fucking oil and gas companies that write legislation for our legislators so that we can, over the course of a few years, go from collectively understanding that burning coal is bad for the environment to believing in clean coal, like if you wash your coal in tap water and give it a good scrub, that it won't burn dirty? You have a problem. See, this is, again, even if this is why sometimes right-wingers are like, oh, now leftists are okay with corporations having influence. Yeah, I have a problem right now with how corporations function broadly and the influence they have on society. However, the solution to that is not easing restrictions on the very few times that corporations stop Nazism. Like 98% of the time, corporate power is a bad thing. But the 2% of the time where that corporate power is limiting the spread of fascist outreach, that I want to keep that 2%. Or at the very least, if we're going to get rid of all of it, we got to get rid of all of it. We can't just get rid of the 2% that holds back fascists.
But specifically, there was a story from Motherboard where the lead of the story kind of buried an important issue. It said that Twitter won't use an algorithm to remove white nationalists because it might get Republicans.
Right.
In the story, it said Twitter believes, not only do they believe it's acceptable, but that the public finds it acceptable that innocent Muslims are removed from Twitter because they're trying to get ISIS. I personally find that unacceptable.
But they find it unacceptable that Republicans would be sort of caught up in a similar application of a policy to remove white nationalists. In other words, it's not an equal application.
I wonder why Twitter would be more comfortable and putting forth algorithms that would ban Muslims, innocent Muslims, because they're trying to target ISIS recruitment, but they wouldn't be okay with putting forth algorithms that bans white nationalism because it might target Republican politicians.
Saying.
Yeah, so we ended up seeing this wave of stories where they said, incorrectly, Twitter won't ban white nationalists. Well, the story was specifically that because white nationalists use Trump rhetoric, if they implemented an algorithm, it would sweep up innocent Republicans. And Twitter said it was one Twitter employee, I might add, because Twitter's denying this. But the employee said the public wouldn't accept that, so we're not going to do it.
Well, it's not just that white nationalists use Trump rhetoric. Trump uses white nationalist rhetoric. Didn't Trump retweet Lauren Southern a few days ago after the most recent ban wave off of like Facebook? I'm pretty sure he retweeted Lauren fucking Southern, an actual Nazi, a dyed-in-the-wool, true blue fucking Nazi. Lauren Southern. Jewish question. They will not replace us. Brown people are being sent into the Western society to destroy it. All that shit. I'm pretty...
And then,
Okay, so that's their opinion, so
yeah.
to speak.
It was one employee, and I think we should be careful about stuff like that. But if this one employee is to be taken at face value, he straight up said that Arab language broadcasters and Muslims will get banned arbitrarily by algorithm. I don't think that's okay.
Arbitrarily, maybe incorrectly. In other words, there will be false positives, I guess is maybe a more accurate way to say it.
Sure. Right. Simply because some people in ISIS use similar language to regular Muslims, it's going to negatively impact everybody.
Well, like what? Wait, because they speak the same language? Wait, that's like saying I use the same language as a Nazi because I speak English. Well, obviously, like the original Nazis would have spoken German, but nowadays it's largely an Anglo movement. Doesn't this speak innately to racism right here? That our ability to discern like just regular Muslims talking in Arabic from ISIS recruitment is so limited that we can't help catching between the two, but we can distinguish perfectly between like a regular white English person's Twitter and a Nazi's. Doesn't this speak innately to a bias in the algorithms they put forward?
And so I guess the point I was trying to make is under the broad interpretation of Section 230 and using additionally a First Amendment argument, social media companies, online services are exempt from civil rights law.
What does that mean? Because they have to follow. Listen, no corporation. He's making it sound like, oh yeah, and through like a slippery little legal loophole, social media corporations don't have to follow through. Never have businesses had to follow the First Amendment. That's a government thing. There has never been a business in the history of the United States of America that has had to respect the free speech rights of the people using that business or operating within its bounds. This has never happened. The way I love the dishonest phrasing here, like, oh, and technically if you take a look at the laws, it turns out that social media corporations are exempt from civil rights. Go fuck yourself, Tim. They all are. They do have to follow the legislation considering protected classes because that specifically affects businesses and landowners. But beyond that, yeah, First Amendment's a government thing, bruh. Corporations also don't have to respect your Second Amendment rights. You don't have, if you go into an Applebee's with a fucking M15 or an AR strapped to your back, they have every legal right to tell you to fuck off. Though they might not because they'd probably be terrified.
I mean that it sounds as bad as it is. It's mind blowing to me.
Okay, so let's work up to that if we can. So maybe just to set the stage, and then in a second we'll get to what parts we do agree on, and then maybe that'll help us figure out where we might disagree.
I'm gonna get really frustrated at Pakman not going nearly hard enough here.
People don't know you. Like, what are your politics? How should people be sort of thinking about your politics in the context of this conversation?
Say it, Tim.
I guess no one believes me, but that's okay. I think I've always been kind of a social liberal.
Yeah. Okay, really quick, we're gonna do this once. Okay, we're gonna take a look at Tim Pool's YouTube page. Are we ready? Okay, we're just doing this once. I don't want to have to do this again, okay? Left-wing digital media is collapsing. Trump wins appeal to keep migrants in Mexico. Okay, so I'm just going to give you like the content rather than the title. Talking about how CNN is failing. Talking about how Republicans need free speech protection or they're going to go out under. Talking about Republicans trying to end the political censorship they languish within. CNN journalists outraged wants more censorship, so pretending that the left wants more censorship. Fucking standing for the literal Nazis that were banned off Facebook. Talking about right wingers being literally every video. This is not like a hey every once in a while he dog whistles. This is literally every single video he puts out is either defending Republicans or defending the alt-right. It's every single one. Defending the Nazi dog whistle, clown world. Acting as though Obama is like, hey, nowadays leftists are fucking crazy. Pushing far left lies. Online censorship backfires against the Democrats. Literally every single video. Defending Ben Shapiro, saying, haha, CNN and MSNBC ratings are collapsing, which he does like every 5 days. Shitting on Rachel Maddow, the Jussie Smollett shit. Talking about how the collusion conspiracy backfires, the hysteria about Russian collusion. Every single video. CPS investigating the drag kid, the Green New Deals. Facebook is dying because they won't let conservatives. Defending this guy who lost an eyeball when a stray rope of cum hit him in the eye while he was trying to suck his own dick. The demise of Twitter because of the fucking censorship. Dave Rubin destroys Tim Pool with logic and facts. I've actually seen a bit of this. It's the title is ironic, you see. Again, every single. Here is him defending Project Veritas, a far-right investigatory journalist wing that collaborates with people like fucking Alex Jones and Breitbart, who have never in their lives done anything even remotely close to truthful. Every single video. Tim Pool is not a center-left leaning person. He is not a liberal, and he is not a journalist. What he is the world's biggest grifter. No one. It takes the world's most shameless comedian to pretend that you are a liberal when you are this blatant about not being a liberal. This is far worse than Sargon saying that he's a classical liberal. Again, 4chan memes, defending Trump, defending every fucking alt-righter. Oh, look. Oh, that's cool. Here's him talking about the scandal where a comic artist unironically drew Serena Williams as like an angry fat gorilla in a very blatantly racist manner, and he fucking defends
the Serena Williams for all the men who have broken their rackets over the years.
Yeah, and he defends like it's not that bad. It's actually insane. So again, Tim Pool is going to claim several times over this video that he is a liberal, that nobody believes him, but he's left-leaning. Just take a moment, pause the video. We have DRV on, or DRM, or whatever the fuck it's called when you can pause the live stream. Just take a second and laugh it out, and then resume the video. Also, this is around the point where Pakman should be telling Tim Pool to kill himself.
I was
Sargon is just as bad. Yeah. Sargon is a worse person than Tim Pool, but Sargon does not go to the same lengths to pretend that he isn't right-leaning anymore. Tim Pool continues to pretend. I wasn't saying that Tim Pool is worse than Sargon. I was saying that in this respect, he is worse than Sargon.
was a fervent Bernie supporter in 2016, but I have definitely moved a little away from Bernie for several reasons.
Imagine unironically believing that supporting Bernie Sanders in 2016 gives you the eternal liberal pass.
Right now, I am currently supporting and have donated to Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang, but
Andrew Yang.
I am very, very anti-democratic establishment,
Mm-hmm.
and admittedly, I am not, like, when it comes to, I think for your audience, I've made maybe like 2 to 5% of my videos.
I can't believe Tim Pool was part of Occupy. Tim Pool was an informant for Occupy. He supplied he like leaked info. Didn't he? Like it sure is weird how that shit happens. All right, no, we got to focus
Directly at Trump and about what Trump has done.
Okay.
I do regularly say bad things about Trump, but
yeah, I've never heard one.
I think my focus is very much on what I see as the Democrats are moving in a dangerous direction. Not that I think the corporate centrist types like Biden and Hillary are any good,
Right.
but I'm seeing what I feel culturally is a dangerous progression on the left towards regressive authoritarian. There's the tribal word regressive, and so I'm very much focused on how the media manipulates how. But you know, I don't want to get too much into that. I suppose my politics are rather center left in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Imagine unironically believing that that the left is moving in a dangerous direction when the Republican Party has unironically courted white nationalists in the past in the past like 3 or 4 years.
And there's two reasons why I'm actively supporting Tulsi and Andrew Yang.
Okay.
For one, wow, Yang, I got to admit, when I first started watching him, I was kind of just like, whatever, you know, I don't like UBI. But the dude really has thought out a lot. And
He really hasn't. Again, this is funny. These are the people who bounced from Bernie to Yang are the epitome of people who have no values whatsoever. These are people who have no understanding of politics, no like ability to analyze the political situation in which they live, no ability to analyze policy decisions. The only political position that people who made this jump have is things are bad and I want things to be mixed up. I want to see things be different. Think this guy's got it. That is the extent of their cognitive capacity. I have no respect for Yang and no respect for Yang gangers. Yeah, exactly. He's like Elon Musk and Super Fighting Robot. Don't think I'm over you fucking smearing me on Twitter, buddy. But yeah, he's like Elon Musk. These are people who mindlessly praise like tech-leaning demagogues for no reason other than because they're like, oh, they're kind of nerdy and wow, they've got the bold take that no one's willing to take on the public issues. It's a political outsider's view of politics filmed through the veneer of somebody who has, I think, maybe 6 or 7 brain cells.
I agree with so much of what he's doing. You just go to his website and he's got a ridiculous amount of policy ideas. And the way he's framing UBI actually as a VAT tax dividend through these massive corporations, that spoke to me a lot because one of the biggest issues I have is these tech monopolies. It is literally what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
How they're taking over the commons.
Well, let's not jump the gun on that. But so, okay, if my observation is that you're right, it seems about 2 to 5% of your channel is criticizing Trump. I just took a glance at it before we went live. 85% of it seems to be criticizing not just Democrats, but the left. So I want to hear you defend your...
It's not 85. It's literally his entire fucking channel. And it's not just him criticizing the far left either. He criticizes CNN and MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, the Democratic establishment. He talks shit about trans people. He reps like Nazi shit. Like he defends Clown World. He defends Paul Joseph Watson. He defends far right figures. He defends Trump. He talks about how it's crazy how what like immigrants and refugees are allowed to get away with. Every single point. It's not just never ever fall. Everything that comes out of Tim Pool's mouth is a lie. Just never listen to him. There's no point in listening to him. He has a negative, he's actually like, his brain is so dense that it absorbs information. The information, the cosmic concept of knowledge cannot break his event horizon. It just gets absorbed into his fucking beanie. The world is stupider for his existence. Even if he never opened his mouth and just sit like pantsless in the middle of a town square, shitting himself and doodling on the sidewalk with his own shit, his enormously dense fucking cranium would still absorb the intelligence of the people around him. There would be like an investor or maybe like a technician of some kind or maybe like an artist or a video gamer walking by like, yeah, I just had a really good idea. What if, so we had a problem with the level progression. What if we had a system by which if people completed while Tim Pool is doodling with his own shit faster and faster, shit's flying off of it's getting under his fingertips, it's getting up, it's clogging his beanie is starting to sag. This is the only thing he does apart from smearing shit around with his finger. His other hand is holding the beanie up as it gets more and more weight because he has to protect the head, his weak point.
Position that you are...
Hey, shoe on head, you know that one of your videos is up in the docket, buddy. You know that your centrism video? That's up next. Too long, by the way, have you gotten away with it. Too fucking long. You know why you have? Because I can't stand looking at 480p videos. But it's coming today. You fucking baited me with that centrism video.
Left, because like if somebody looks at my channel, it's obvious that I'm on the left and I'm a progressive. If you look at just my last 10 videos, my last 20 videos, my last 100 videos, whatever, when I pulled up your channel, I see Republicans push laws to end censorship, pro-Republican story. Facebook's purge of the right has begun.
Is that pro-Republican?
I think it is. I mean, well, so let me get to that in a second. Let me explain. Yeah. So conservative news added to blacklist. Conservatives are the victims. Leftist activists, not establishment Dems, but leftist activists force MasterCard to vote on banning the far right. The far right is the victim. Antifa planned armed disruption of U.S. border. It's the left that's causing violent chaos at the border. Censorship backfires on far left. Of course, far left is not establishment Dems. Another hate crime hoax exposed. That's, I mean, the hate crime, that's less politically, overtly political. Mueller report provides proves media is a fake news trash fire. Mostly a story being parroted by the right, although there are enclaves on the left that are saying that. So my view, Tim, is, and we've known each other for years, and this
Oh,
is
yeah.
not, this is just my assessment of what's on your channel, that about 85% of your content is going after the left, and I totally get.
This is so fucking frustrating. David Pakman is not left enough for this shit. David Pakman is being way the fuck too charitable. What is this? Hey man, we've been friends for a while, so I just wanted to take a look at your videos and give you an opportunity to lie to me and explain how all these videos actually fit within the framework of a liberal mind. No! If you have Tim Pool on, if you have him bolted to the fucking chair, if you've managed to somehow, like, lasso his beanie and pin it down to the chair that he's sitting in, okay? Holy shit, I just got a big donation. But I'm a good boy and I wait until the scheduled breaks before acknowledging the donations. If you are in a position to talk to Tim fucking Pool, you cannot let him defend his fucking lies. You have to be like, hey Broseph, literally everything you do reps alt-right talking points. There is nothing that you do that breaks away from that tradition. Even the alt-right criticizes Trump sometimes, usually because they're mad he hasn't done enough to, like, expel the Jews or defeat or fucking destroy Israel or whatever. You cannot just give him this benefit of the doubt. He is the definition of a bad faith actor. And if you let a bad faith actor explain themselves on their own terms, the people in the audience who are too stupid and unfamiliar with the preceding context to understand that he's a liar are going to walk away thinking, oh yeah, man, Tim Pool, he seems kind of bad, but then he said he's a liberal, and he said he don't like Trump and he liked Bernie. So that's pretty good. And then he says that Tulsi Gabbard, and then that's pretty good. He said Antifa did violence. Violence is bad. I guess Tim Pool is pretty good. Listen, most people are subhumanly stupid, okay? You can't let bad faith actors get away with marketing themselves like this.
At criticizing the left from the left, like I do that as well, but the overall selection is selection of stories that to me seems as painting the right in a good light or as the victims, and choosing to go after relatively insignificant enclaves of the left.
Can't we just all get along in chat, okay? Why can't we all just get along? Isn't it cool that I have big YouTubers in chat now? Isn't that cool? I think that's cool. It makes me feel, makes me feel a little bit validated right now. It makes me feel, makes me feel like a big boy. Yeah. Can't we just all get along? Wait for me to do the bridge burning.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, no, the way you see it is the way a lot of people see it, and I think you have your opinion, your view. I'll psychoanalyze myself for a second, and I think for me, I was kind of, growing up, kind of ostracized by a lot of the establishment and main left, but more specifically, again, to psychoanalyze myself, I've gone through a period where all of the attacks I receive and everything that tries to ruin my life is coming from this one group of left-wing individuals.
Yeah, good. Yeah, fuck you.
For a specific purpose. And that's naturally going to result in certain behaviors and certain focuses. So let's actually, I don't want to make it seem like a cop-out. I've been physically attacked by the left, not the right. I've been people.
Yeah, because you're on the right. No shit.
People are right now taking a quote from Vox.com to make it seem like I am an anti-Semite.
I don't actually know if he's an anti-Semite, but I do know he's permissive of anti-Semitism because he peddles to alt-right circles. Because listen, here's the fucking pipeline, okay? This is very. I need to keep. Oh, I do have Paint open. Hello, Tim Pool. All right, let's do the pipeline. Okay, are we ready? We're gonna move. So here's the pipeline, okay? So you're a fucking regular ass conservatard, okay? And then you're like, Christian nation, Muslims, bad. But then you think about it, like, oh my God, Muslims bad. But we let them into the country? Who's responsible for this? Must be the Dems working in tandem with the far left But why are they doing it? Why are they bringing in all these Muslims? Well, it could be because they're politically correct, little cucky soy boy shills. But what if it's for a more nefarious purpose? What if there's a group of people who benefit materially from introducing foreign elements into Western culture? Listen, the fucking pipeline from being a regular conservatist, conservatist. I'm so fucking tired. God damn it, I haven't eaten. The pipeline from being a regular conservative is like a straight line to being an anti-Semite, okay? It's really fucking easy. The only stopgap in the conservative to alt-right Nazi pipeline is if you're a fundamentalist Christian who believes that the Jews have to hold their ancestral homeland in order for Jesus to return to earth and the rapture to begin. That's like their little fucking death cult theory, okay? So if you're not a Christian conservative who believes that, who respects Jews because of your like shared, you know, Abrahamic, Judeo-Christian, Ben Shapiro value nonsense, okay? Then it's a straight line. That's the only stopgap. So if Tim Pool reps alt-right figures, it wouldn't surprise me if he's anti-Semitic or at the very least permissive of anti-Semitism. Do you dislike Pool because you think he's stupid or because you think he's a bad faith actor? Both. He's lots of both. He's a ton of both. He's everything bad in a human being possible.
So they can get me removed from my bank account and stuff. That's not coming from conservatives. It never has.
That's
Even
fair.
when-
That's totally
but-
fair. But I guess what's important to me...
I will go through these videos, though. I will. Seriously. So,
Yeah.
so forgive me.
And I actually don't need you to do an accounting of each video. For me, it's more, if I look at your channel and 85% is criticisms that are what I would consider relatively niche in terms of their existence on the left, it doesn't strike me as someone whose priorities are center-left to say,
Well,
here's
no,
what
but-
I think 85% of my channel should be.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard denounced identity politics outright.
This is what all they care about. These are fucking Gamergate political minds. This is a Gamergate journalist, okay? The only lens through which he views is like owning the left and social justice warriors and identity politics. Like that's it. That's all they have up here. That's all they fucking got. Also, I like the implication here that you can be that like the only reason why Tim Pool is incorrectly identified as being right-leaning is because his channel criticizes liberals very often and leftists, which is like, oh yeah, I'm just like seeding out the bad elements of my own movement. I could literally dedicate my entire channel to shitting on Democrats and it would still be evident that I'm a leftist, okay? I could even dedicate it to shitting on other leftists. In fact, I could dedicate my channel to being openly critical of identity politics, cancel culture, gender theory, and I could make this like a full-on fucking like identity politics are cool and all, but we need to focus on class issues first. Also, fuck the Democrats, fucking gulag the Democrats. I could literally go full fucking tilt on these issues, and I would still be very clearly a leftist. It's not just who you criticize, Tim Pool. It's why you criticize them and how you criticize them.
Right. With Michael Tracy. She said straight up, it's divisive, it's bad for us.
Okay.
Identitarianism is one of the biggest things that I have a problem with due to my family history being
Identitarianism, when he literally stands for white identitarians, aka white supremacists, aka Nazis.
I know it's kind of a meme, but mixed. And this comes from when we look
We're about to get it.
at affirmative
But Tim,
action.
isn't that identity politics? You're saying your view on this is informed, you're against identity politics as informed by your identity.
Yeah, it
Got him! All right, that's the only clip I've seen from this video, okay? Everything else is fresh for me. Oh, God.
it is what it is. I'll put it this way. I am not permitted the left nor the right allow me an identity. So what that does
What the fuck do you mean by that? What do you mean identity? Wait, what identity does he want that I'm denying him? Tim Pool, stretch your bloated pale face with your stretch your patchy fucking beard and smelly beanie through the screen and tell me directly what identity I'm keeping you from having. Because the only identity I have an expressed problem with is white identity, because it is an illusion created to mask racism. There's no such thing as white identity, white culture, white society, or white history. None of these things exist. But if you want to be like an American, or if you want to be like, yeah, I'm a dude, or you want to be like, yeah, I'm a fucking idiot, I'll let you have all those identities. Have them. Have them in fucking heaps, Tim Pool. Also, by the way, criticized identity politics, then complains he's not allowed an identity. Get the fuck out of my face.
Does is it kind of ostracizes me. And what I find recluse, not recluse, but what I find safe harbor, I guess, is the fact that the U.S. actually had protections against discrimination based on
Smash Mouth is white history. I apologize. Smash Mouth is the only white history.
race in these things. So for me, someone who's experienced it from both directions, I'm apprehensive towards either direction. When I have the left telling me I'm a white male and the right telling me I'm a mudblood, like I'm not going to be happy.
Mudblood? Ooh, is that really what they call you? Ooh, do they call you Mudblood, Tim Pool? Yeah, that's what alt-right figures do when they're disparaging people who aren't white. They call you a Mudblood. They've nice, good way to sanitize them. I like that. Also, wait, you have a problem with the left calling you a white male? If you were just like, hey, I'm actually like part Hispanic and I identify more with that part of my culture or whatever, so I don't think we'd care. But you do undeniably benefit from white privilege. I don't even know what fucking point he's making.
Fine, but Tim, so I have the left saying I'm not Jewish, I'm white, and I have white privilege, and I have the right saying I'm not white, I'm Jewish, and Jews are a race that is really bad, and we should be really so.
By the way, anyone who thinks that David Pakman isn't white is very dumb. Come on.
Fact that, but that doesn't make me all of a sudden say
I worry that conflating bad takes with bad faith is damaging to discourse. Point to the approach Zizek took as Peterson potentially more productive one. Handle, go fuck yourself. It's entirely possible for somebody to be a fucking idiot and also be dishonest, and Tim Pool is both. Don't civility politics me with somebody like Tim fucking Pool. You can civility politics me. You know what? Civility politics me with people like Shoe on Head, who have actually made an eager and honest effort to distance themselves from the alt-right since 2016, okay? Do not do this to me with Tim fucking Pool, who pushes out daily fucking videos defending the alt-right, defending Nazis, criticizing the left, slamming the left, talking about Clown World, how crazy transgender ideology is, and then stepping back and saying that he's a liberal. Okay? Don't. Why are people saying vuvuzela? Did I say vuvuzela? Did I do it? Why are people saying vuvuzela? I have no idea. I understand I come across as tone police, not trying to dictate how you engage this voice concern, not attacking. Yeah, but Handel, I think that your approach here is fundamentally unproductive. Bad faith actors can't be engaged with fairly. That only gives them more credence than they deserve. You have to smash them. And idiots need to be taken apart in whatever way is most prudent. So if you have a bad faith idiot, you smash them extra hard.
I'm going to do 85% of my videos and criticize the left. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's what you personally find important, right? You know, if you watch any of my videos, like, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Subject matter doesn't dictate politics, simply because you've got, you know, who's, and again, it's my opinion, but when I say who's trying to remove people from the internet, it's not like Nancy Pelosi. It's a particular sect of a group of progressive, more far left individuals.
It's really not. You know that back during Gamergate and during 2016 and up till this day, there was an ongoing campaign by right-leaning people to try and get left-leaning people off the internet. Look at all the shit that happened to Destiny just a few weeks ago. Destiny said that political violence against conservatives could be justified, and every single fucking online, like, clickbait, anti-SJW Gamergate YouTuber shit their pants and made a video on how Destiny needs to be removed from Twitch because he's encouraging violence or whatever, okay? Listen, here's the fucking fact of the matter. Every single person who falls outside the most bland, meaningless, spineless center position is going to support deplatforming the opposition in some way or another if they have any fucking sense. The right will never stop. They false flag my shit. That's the reason why I got banned off Twitch, by the way. That flagging was from a fucking Nazi, not from somebody who sincerely believed I was criticizing Israel. I got banned off Twitch for criticizing Israel by somebody who probably thinks Israel does deserve to be bombed, okay? There ongoing campaign to remove us from the internet has been largely overlooked. Because, as it turns out, there aren't many left-leaning people who occupy positions of social power to the same extent as, say, Lauren Southern or Paul Joseph Watson. And if they are, they're fairly neutral, like the Young Turks or David Pakman or whatever, okay? Whereas Paul Joseph Watson is a literal fucking Nazi, and he's still huge. Ben Shapiro is a literal white supremacist, and he's still huge. Steven Crowder is a literal white supremacist, and he's still huge. So now we say, like, oh, yeah, and now fucking Twitter and YouTube and Facebook are like, oh, yeah, oh, we just looked at our TOS. It turns out being a Nazi isn't good. We're going to start removing some of these channels. And they lose their fucking mind. The suggestion that this is being orchestrated as some sort of, like, violent, exclusively pro-left movement is fucking ridiculous. Anyone who says that is operating in bad faith. There are a lot. Listen, let me tell you, folks, all right? Listen, the alt-right, they've got the best bad faith actors, okay? They've got the best ones, all right? And you need to be looking out for them.
Who's trying to get people removed from their banks? Who's trying to get people banned? Who's arguing in favor of regulation that restricts speech? It's not conservatives and it's not moderate Democrats.
Okay, but a lot of your stories
that
don't
freaks me
relate
out.
specifically to...
Wait, legislation that restricts speech? I'm sorry. I don't recall any left-leaning figure ever proposing any legislation that restricts speech. Only that social media corporations should crack down on their own TOS violations a little bit harder. Ooh, I thought voting with our wallets, I thought protesting corporations was a good way of affecting social change.
To that issue, but let's not belabor it. I do find it sort of interesting, though, that in the same sentence that you said you're against identity politics and that's why you like Tulsi, you made an identity politics argument based on your identity, which strikes me as a contradiction of sorts. That was weird to me.
There's the support of politics based on someone's identity and the support of opposition to that, right? I don't. And
What the fuck is he saying?
and let me make clear, some identity politics are absolutely a good thing. It's identitarianism that's a bad thing. So
Okay.
maybe that's so. I tell people this: authority is a good thing. Like when a doctor tells you, "Hey, there's someone injured. Put your hand on the wound." That's true authority. You'll just do it. You know they're right.
Okay.
But authoritarianism is a really, really bad thing.
What the fuck are you talking about? They're authoritarian. They want to bad to free speech. If a doctor says you hurt, you listen. But the other authority bad. What the fuck is he saying? Anyone who would conflate authoritarianism with like the doctoral authority, or anyone who thinks that these two things are even comparable enough for a comparison to be drawn, looks at things on like a word level only. This is like people who think feminism can't rep men's issues because it's called feminism.
So telling someone in our society you cannot factor in race in terms of public accommodation, that's a violation of civil rights. I like that. When you say we're absolutely going to
Really? Because you, Tim, fascinating, Tim Pool. So you are in favor of protected classes. Then why do you stand for and work with so many people who don't? If you think that it's okay and ethical for the government to tell businesses that they can't discriminate based on race or religion or gender or what have you, why do you associate with so many people who want those protections removed? And why do you yourself not agree with the implementation of those protections when it comes to trans people?
factor in race, I don't like that. So it's nuanced, I guess, right?
And does anyone who's saying that
There's nothing nuanced about his fucking position.
we have to factor in race when it's not a relevant
The
factor?
ACLU, when they supported affirmative action at Harvard, which lumps all
God.
Asians, Indian, Chinese, Laotians into one category, and I find that offensive as an Asian person. And
Oh, I love it. Hey, I'm against identity politics, but as an Asian person, says the person who very fucking obviously benefits from white privilege, but as an Asian person, it offends me. The affirmative action, they call all Asian people the same. We're unique and different. Okay, buddy. Are you aware of the fact that the U.S. Census also lumps in groups of people with ethnic and national disparities between them? It's not a perfect system. It's just a way of generally analyzing broad sociological trends. If you have a problem with that and you want there to be more distinction, it sounds like you're actually arguing for more identity politics. You're actually arguing for more specificity, more diversity, and more distinction amidst the protections given and the acknowledgement given to people of different identities. Tim Pool, my identitarian fellow. Hello, welcome to the club.
So when I come out and say,
but Tim, that's an identity to say.
Yeah.
You should be able to argue whether it's offensive or not offensive, right or not right, without saying because you are part Asian. You find like that's identity politics, which you claim to be against.
I agree.
No, I agree. Hey, Tim Pool, that was a stupid fucking argument. I agree. By the way, I would never make that argument. Hey, listen, here's my hot take, okay? I don't give a fuck about any statement that begins with as a woman, as a black person, as a trans person. I sincerely don't give a fuck. What David Pakman said is right. If you're correct, you should be able to argue your position from a neutral ground. And as it happens, you almost certainly can if you're a marginalized group. Because I'm not trans, I'm not black, and I'm not a woman, and I can defend all of these groups perfectly. You don't, like, all it does is undermine your position when you make the assertion that the validity of your argument is in some way affected by a condition of your birth. But if you're saying like, hey, as a black woman, I've experienced a lot of da-da-da, well then we're talking about like an experiential reference, not like a line of argumentation. That's obviously different.
And I think the clarification then, I think what we're discovering here is that it's not so much the core idea of identity politics, it's the application of in ways that either is reductive or authoritarian.
I'm against I hate identity politics. Mostly I criticize identity politics. And as an Asian, it really bothers me this thing. David Pakman steps in. You just made an argument in favor of identity politics. Yeah, well, actually, I only dislike identity politics when it's authoritarian left, when it's from the regressive left. Jesus fucking Christ.
So let me frame it this way. The civil rights movement, paramount, 100% important. It's the only reason my family was able to live in this country without threat of law, because miscegenation laws made it illegal for my family to live together.
Fuck! The Civil Rights Act was a mistake, boys. We gotta go back. Back to the future. We gotta assassinate Martin Luther King Jr. a little bit earlier, okay? We gotta hand the letter off to Hoover, all right? Kill this guy a little bit sooner. It'll be worth it. Nah, I'm fucking kidding. But seriously, though, the idea that these people would have supported MLK, the socialist who opposed white hegemony back in the day, is fucking hysterical. Conservatives always do this. They try and claim Gandhi. Like, oh, don't you want peaceful resistance like Gandhi? They try and claim MLK. They try and claim the suffrage movement. They try and claim the abolitionist movement because they're constantly rewriting the circumstances by which these events took place. At every point in time throughout history, marginalized groups have fought against people like Tim Pool, who have accused marginalized communities of going too far, who have defended pre-existing power structures, who have hypocritically assumed the position of the benefactor, while not so subtly in his case, while otherwise subtly standing for the policy of the oppressor. At every point in history, Tim Pool, our little Asian bedfellow over here, he is the pro-segregationist. He is the white protester throwing rocks at the Little Rock Nine. He is the anti-suffragist. He is the Confederate soldier taking up arms against the Union. In every point in history, he is that person. Never let him claim responsibility or sympathy for these movements because he is not of them.
It was identity politics that ended that. But that was the end of identitarianism, where they actually said this for this race, this for that race.
What? The civil rights movement ended identitarianism? Oh man, I love it when people just make words up. I love it. Yeah. Do I need to have like a list down like what words he's made up so I can remember in the future? If he says identitarianism, does he mean people who believe in identity politics, or does he mean like white nationalists since they call themselves identitarians, or does he mean legal policies which specifically favor people of different races? I want to know what he means at any given point in time.
And so we implemented laws that said you can't do X based on these characteristics. I like that. It's not perfect. But now we're seeing, particularly, again, I think it's Harvard, where there's this really common idea of all race is one thing. And that's just not true, right? So
But that's totally separate from identity politics.
Wait, what?
So I think we're clarifying the issue in that case then,
okay.
Right?
Shoe on head. I'm going to assume you're memeing with that one, okay? That MLK would be pro-Gamergate. I think that's a meme. Guys, remember what I said about engaging with satire healthily? Come on, have a little bit of charitability. That was a joke.
So if I think to reduce it to simply identity politics is more of a tribal signifier. Like if I say to certain people identity politics, they nod and they understand. And I think what you're bringing up, it's actually
Tim Pool is literally saying nothing right now. He's saying like, yeah, identity politics is bad, but like then laws stopped that made identity politics could be used anymore, and that was good. But some identity politics is bad because it's used for tribalism. But when I do it, it's fine. He's literally not saying anything right now.
really, really important because we're seeing how language kind of divides us more.
Well,
'Cause
but I didn't bring it up. All I'm bringing up is that twice now you're in the context of saying you're against identity politics. You brought up your identity as the basis for why you feel the way you do, which seems to me like identity politics.
And so, I guess to clarify, I think it's wrong to judge people based on the color of their skin, and we should judge them based on the content of their character.
Okay.
So, to me, to my
Repping that MLK. Standing with MLK. What a progressive this guy is.
interpretation of identitarianism, based on its root definition as identity-based government, would be the government saying this for this race, that for that race. That to me is wrong.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Then why do you stand with white identitarians, aka white nationalists, aka white supremacists? Why do you do that then, Tim? Why do you defend these people?
when you see like certain groups advocating that we should factor in race for college admissions, I think that's wrong. I think we should judge individuals based on who they are, and one of the reasons for this is that
what Tim Pool is describing very ineptly right now is called race blind policy, okay? And it's the idea that racism is dead, racism is over, and racism should not be perpetuated through institutional function, okay? We shouldn't legislate racism or anti-racism because we might go too far in the other direction. The problem with this line of thought, and this is actually a very common line of thought amongst liberals, so if there are any people right now in the chat who are like not alt-righters but are just kind of libs, listen the fuck up, okay? The reason why this like mode of thought is a problem is because whether you like it or not, there are huge institutional differences in society today. Black people have massively lower home worth, massively lower average income, massively lower chance of graduating high school and getting into college, massively higher chance of being arrested, massively higher chance of being incarcerated, massively higher chance of living in low income areas. There is a huge institutional barrier, and that barrier right now, to this day, right now in this moment, not just as a legacy of past events, but right now is being perpetuated through policies that generally speaking keep people in their lane. If you have race blind policies that keep people in their lane, but at the beginning of the race, before people like implemented those policies, the black people got like kicked into the pond. Like, imagine like we're racing, okay? And it's 1776, all right? And the guy fires the gun, and then fucking Anglos run over and they suplex black people into the swamp, and then like get up and start running down the race. And the black people start running, like start trying to get back up on the track, but every time they do, somebody kneecaps them, okay? So black people keep running through the swamp, and then at fucking, I don't know, what was it, 1968? At 1968, the ref is like, whoa, 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 whoa! This is fucked up. Stop kneecapping the fucking black guy when he tries to get up out of the swamp. So they stop doing it. By now the white people are like 6 miles ahead, so no one's even around to fucking kneecap him anymore, but that's where the analogy fails, okay? And the black person gets up out of the swamp and starts running alongside the race, but they're like 6 miles behind, and the black guy shouts at the ref like, hey, can I get like a time bonus, or can they stop for a fucking minute? I'm really far behind and I don't think it's like really my fault. And then the ref says like, well, we can't like benefit you. We can't like privilege you. Like things are even now. Nobody's in the swamp. We're all racing together. We can't do that. That'd be reverse racism. This is a clunky analogy, but this is like basically literally it. The fact of the matter is that we live in a society. We live in a society in which black people are institutionally disadvantaged on basically every level, and treating them as though they are not disadvantaged, treating them as though they are neutral and in equal standing with whites will perpetuate that disadvantage. And it produces cyclical systems which maintains their oppression. For instance, if black people are typically poor, that means they're not as likely to go out there and get good jobs, which means they are less likely to be able to make a living and afford rent and food legitimately, meaning they're more likely to have to turn to pimping and drug dealing, as people in lower income situations generally have to do, which means they're more likely to get arrested, which means they're likely to go to jail, which means their kids are likely to grow up without like a mom or dad or whatever, which perpetuates the cycle into perpetuity. Only by like saying like, hey, it's not enough that everyone's treated the same. Everyone has to be the same. We can't just treat black and white people the same, but black people just have it worse forever. We have to fix the discrimination. Okay, I know that was a bit of a rant there, but I hope to any like liberal leaning people here understand this, okay? It's not about like making black people better or stronger than white people, or like privileging them, or like punishing white people. I don't feel fucking guilty for slavery. Are you fucking kidding me? Even though I benefit from slavery, like in a long-standing institutional way, I benefit from white supremacy. I don't feel fucking guilty. Nah, fuck that. I live my life free of guilt, okay? But just because I don't feel guilty doesn't mean there aren't people out there suffering in ways that could be mended through government policy. Okay, let's fix it.
That it doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, trans, or whatever. You can be rich or poor. And if we start acting like the true signifier of
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're white or black. You could still be rich or poor. You're just much, much likelier to be poor if you're black.
Of someone's capabilities or someone's privilege is what color their skin is. That's when things start devolving into overt racism, because you're going to have particularly wealthy, say, Indians, millionaire, high caste individuals who come to America and claim that the middle class working family who's white has more power than they do.
No, nobody claims that. Every single good, honest, God-fearing leftist recognizes that the greatest privilege of all is wealth. There is no greater privilege in American society than wealth. In fact, I would go so far as to say that with a sufficient level of wealth, race, gender, and sexual status basically stop mattering, because you can insulate yourself against all of the institutional pressures you would otherwise face. Now, if you're like a billionaire and you're fucking like a trans Asian woman or something, would you have it easier if you were a straight white cisgender billionaire? Yes, you would. But I don't really care. You're a billionaire either way. Every God-fearing leftist, every last one of them, recognizes class privilege, Tim Pool. You can't slip that one out from under me.
And this argument gets dangerous.
Yeah, well,
we
can find counter examples where the more prominent historical narratives aren't true, but I think we need something stronger to make.
Vosh, can you address that both sides are thinking of it as a competition? In reality, we're playing a co-op game? No, I don't believe that. I am not playing a co-op game with fascists. I don't share the same social interests or goals as fascists. I want to make society better for everyone. They want to maintain a hierarchical, traditionalist, white supremacist state, okay? They don't want to make things better for everyone. I'm not working with them. They're an enemy to be crushed or to be made irrelevant. That's it. You can't work with fascists. You can't find mutual bonds with fascists. You can't collaborate with fascists until the moment is right. They are something to be smashed, and that is it.
To make a sort of broader indictment of what policy might be, but because we're kind of now getting into what we were originally going to talk about, so let's explore part one of censorship and discrimination, etc. There are identity elements that are protected classes under the law. Some of them are protected under the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So I believe, going from memory, race is protected under the 64 Civil Rights Act. I believe nationality comes from the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and some others. There are others, like, for example, age. Age is a protected class on the basis of the Employment Discrimination Act of 1967. The exact origin of each category doesn't matter so much as the point that this is what the law currently says. Is that something you are in agreement with, or do you think those laws are problematic?
Civil rights protections?
Yes, on the basis of the categories I listed.
I don't want to be reductive, but I would say at first glance, absolutely, civil rights, expanding them even. I think, like the Equality Act, for instance.
Then why did you have a problem with Bill C-16? Or am I thinking of another person? Wait, that's C6. Fuck. I'm not seeing anything. I might be thinking of something else. All right. I'll get you next time, Tim Pool.
Important, but I often bring up the caveats that we have to be careful about, because we're trying to protect everyone's rights, and we have to make sure we don't overlap in certain areas, like overt Christians who believe that gay people shouldn't be married, claiming that's their right when it doesn't interfere with their lives. It's so that's not an argument.
No, it's not. But what I mean is, you believe that it should be that employers and businesses should not be able to discriminate against employees and customers on the basis of the religion, for example, or
Absolutely.
their status as veterans or race or whatever.
Well, status as veterans, I don't know enough about.
Well, I
It's
was going to get into
interesting,
that. So I was going to ask you, are there any categories of protected class that you actually don't think should have protected status?
So for those of you who aren't aware, a protected class, so this is a very specific American legal thing, okay? The idea of a protected class is that these are categories by which you cannot be discriminated against by either a business or a landowner. So either someone you work for, somebody, something that you are a patron of, like a customer of, or somebody who manages the land in which you live, or the land on which you work, okay? And generally speaking, the idea is that you, as an employer, a business owner, or a landowner, cannot discriminate against your tenants, employees, or customers based on these categories: age, race, ethnicity, marital status, blah, 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 blah. Okay? A lot of people, this is sometimes what right-wingers will lump into, like, the far-left anti-free speech shit. You'll notice, by the way, the Distributus, the dipshit that I argued with a few days ago, the anti-egalitarian, was against the idea of protected classes, but then he, like, made up this, like, complicated system that kind of replicates protected classes, but the small businesses get to tell, like, the Negroes to keep out or something. It was really weird.
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I have two that I'll bring up. There's two that for me are question marks, and I'll tell you why. Yeah. One is religion, and I go back and forth on it for the following reason. On the one hand, we have a country where freedom of and freedom from religion is a very important characteristic of how the country was established. So to say religious belief or lack of religious belief should not be protected, it seems problematic to me in some ways. On the other hand, religion is self-professed. Now, you can say if you're born into a Catholic family, to choose not to be Catholic anymore is different than to be born agnostic and to choose to continue being agnostic. But religion is self-professed, and on that basis, I do have a question mark around whether religion should or shouldn't be a protected class. I don't have the answer.
I think it should be.
You think it should?
And yeah, and part...
From Shoe on Head. A year ago, Jordan Peterson asked if I wanted a free copy of his book, and I said no, and that my BF would like it, though, and he unfollowed me. Listen, you can't blame a dirty old man for trying to get his okay? He just wanted that sweet Aryan waifu pussy, okay? But he couldn't get it, and he got fucking mad.
Partly because it's long standing from the foundation of the country, right? The idea of I don't know how far back it goes, but the idea that you could come here and be safe to believe what you believe and live. There is a challenge though, because what's to say? I think someone actually did this. They tried claiming that Trumpism was a religion, and they believed Trump was the Messiah, and a judge told them no.
Well, that's a bit of a cartoonish thing, but you first said
right.
You think it should be because that's the way it's been for a long time. That's an argument just to continuing to do things because it's the way we've done them. I mean, black people used to be slaves too. Yeah.
Right. So the idea with religion is that we've created a society where we have.
Just so you guys know, I'm very much... Listen, religion is kind of a dicey one, okay? Because, okay, so here's my take on religion, okay? I do believe that religion should be a protected class, because if not, every single fucking store in, like, the South and the Midwest would be like, no Muslims! And then if you come in and you have a turban, even if you're, like, a Sikh or whatever, then they'd be like, no Muslims! And then you have to get out. The problem, though, is that there are some religious, like, sects that have, like, hate kind of baked in. Like, what's the fucking... They used to be a big deal, but nobody cares about them anymore. The God hates fags people. The Westboro Baptist Church, okay? Like, if I were a business owner and I were to expel a Westboro Baptist Church member from my business, it wouldn't be because of their religious status, it would be because of their bigoted views. So I think there's some semantic argument that can be made as to the extent to which, like you're not discriminating against the religion itself. It's just that baked into the religion are a set of values which are just fundamentally antithetical. It'd be like a self-defense justification. Like if a Muslim comes into my business right now and I'm like, no, get out, none of you people, and then they sue me, and then I'm like, oh well, if you take a look at the Quran, it says you gotta, like, stone apostates or whatever or something. So Yeah, I was just against the bigotry. That probably wouldn't fly because in practical reality, Muslims aren't really stoning apostates on the day-to-day. But then again, a Westboro Baptist church member probably is like actively going out there and picketing like God hates fags, like thank God the troops are dead, or like shit like that, you know? I don't know. This is like a weird because in everything else, every other protected class, religion, nationality, age, marital status, race, sex, all of these things are value neutral. You can be these things and they have nothing to do with your set of values, okay? You can believe anything and still be these things. Whereas religion can inform your values very strongly. Even the most milquetoast Christians have social views that I would disagree with. So do they deserve to be a protected class? I don't know. Like, would it be satisfying for me to be able to say that I don't want Christians to frequent my business? Yes. Would it be a bad business policy? Yes. But then all the fucking Muslim, I don't know. That's a tough one, okay? The religious people being protected under protected classes might actually be one of the biggest like ethical and legal snafus that I can't work my way through. And if there's anyone in chat right now who thinks that they have a unique perspective on it, and I don't just mean, oh hey, this sounds cool, let me argue with Vosh, my favorite fucking daddy, but I mean like if you have a legal or a philosophical background, I might be interested in discussing this with you sometime.
Have numerous religions,
Right.
and we've created an umbrella over all of them saying you can't do these things, but you can participate in public if you believe something. And so for the longest time, we've had Christians who believe, biblical Stone Age ideas and contradictory ideas. The same is true for Islam, Judaism, and many, many other religions. I'm just calling out Abraham specifically because it's the easiest one to point to. Well, we need to live together. We can't go
Holy shit, 1,350 viewers. Fucking hell, guys. Happy to have you here.
to Muslims and tell them you're not allowed to believe this anymore. But we can say the practice of doing X based on the Quran or the Bible is against the law. So we do restrict certain practices if it's a violation of the law.
Sure, yeah, but those are called crimes, and then it doesn't matter sort of.
Tim Pool, by the way, right now is saying nothing. He's literally just saying like, oh yeah, well, you don't discriminate against these people because if you do against these people, then that's against the law. And it's against the law because it violates the protected classes thing. And they're protected classes because they're religious. Like, he's literally just talking in circles. He's so fucking stupid. God damn, he's so fucking dumb. Tim Pool's so fucking stupid. Oh my God, he's a fucking subhuman. All right.
Why you're doing it. If something's a crime, it's a crime. I guess my question is, if you say I am part of the Pentecostal religion, that's a sort of self-professed choice. And to me, it's much closer to being someone who skateboards than it is to being someone who's Asian. So
more like Tim Fool.
For me, religion as a sort of choice that people make is closer to other choices that people make, and it's not an immutable characteristic. So I think if there was a case to be made against protecting religion on that basis, it would be that it's just something people choose.
I don't
Hold on. What the fuck, dude? Not really for that removal, but what's wrong with Christians or Muslims or any religious group creating a parallel structure to get their needs met when society won't? What the fuck are you talking about? Is this like dog whistling? What do you mean parallel structure? Do you mean like Christians or Muslims setting up businesses that only they can use or something? What the fuck are you talking about? Andrew Shawan, get back at me.
I don't entirely disagree. I think that's a really good point. I think my concern would be, would we remove the protection of religion and then all of a sudden, bakeries and whatever start saying no to people and businesses start restricting access to tax-paying Americans? So, but let me do this.
Wait. So he just said bakeries saying no to people, which suggests to me, which suggests to me like he's referring to like the gay cake incident. How would removing the protected class status of religious people affect that case? That case wasn't about religious people being a protected class, was it? Am I wrong? Wasn't it about your ability to compel a business to comply with like a production which violates your sincerely held religious beliefs? That's not the same as being a protected class, because that's something a customer demanded of an employer, not something an employer demanded of a customer. Right? Am I wrong on this? I feel like that's completely incomparable. He just like in his head, he just thinks like, oh, religious people business? Yes, gay cake. Yes, gay cake.
Let me explain to you my rationale for why the baker in Colorado should bake the cake, right?
Okay.
We all pay taxes. If you want to argue we shouldn't, that's a different argument. Right now we do. That means my money goes towards the roads, it goes towards the plumbing, it goes towards the collective defense. The building you have where you sell goods exists in a space I'm contributing to. if you weren't there, someone else could be. It's not fair that I should lose access to a portion of my community because you don't like some immutable characteristic about me.
Holy shit, this is the first thing that Tim Pool has ever said that I unironically agree with. I'm not even going to make fun of him for this. Yeah, I agree. We all pay taxes. We all live in a society. Therefore, we all collectively work to maintain the society in which we live. Therefore, it is unethical, without extremely good grounds, for any aspect of that society to preclude my participation, whether that be in a business or in a particular like apartment tenancy. Yeah, I 100% agree with this. I'm actually kind of shocked. This is the most cogent thing I've ever heard him say in my life.
Now, I think there's figuring out where the line is can be challenging. Behavior, most likely, if you go in and start shrieking at the top of your lungs, then maybe they should say you have to leave. You're disturbing people or you're breaking the law. But if someone comes in wearing, like a mom comes into a bakery, they should not be able to be like, I'm arbitrarily removing a member of the public who contributes to my collective defense, to my fire services, to my plumbing. No, that's not fair. That's, so we need.
Yeah, I completely agree. Tim Pool is just virtue signaling to put us off his SS scent. Yeah, no, I'm not saying Tim Pool isn't still a massive fucking cunt, but still, it's a little bit disconcerting. Like, fuck, he just talked for like 5 or 10 seconds and didn't say anything mind-numbingly stupid. He'll ruin it later. Like, don't worry. We're like less than a third of the way into this video.
Social cohesion, and we might not like each other, but we have to respect and tolerate that we're all in this together. So
that's a bit of a different. I mean, the only cap. So I basically agree with what you're saying. I mean, I don't think that's.
Also, when the video hits the 30-minute mark, I'm going to look over super chats. You guys have been so fucking generous. I look over every single super chat you send. I love you all. You're very beautiful and perfect people. I love you very much. Okay.
Something that should happen. Religion as a protected class precludes the necessity of the argument you're making, though, doesn't it? Because there's no. It doesn't even matter whether we think that for social cohesion reasons it should or shouldn't be allowed, because religion's already a protected class.
Yeah. What do you?
I guess I thought you were going beyond that in a defense of why. How does this relate more specifically to the baker and the issue of sexual orientation?
It's a member of the public who's doing something that is legal and in no way impacts your business negatively. It's complicated, I'll admit. It's
okay. Now he's being called out on his stupidity again, because I think I was right. Protected classes have nothing to do with the gay cake scenario.
Things aren't necessarily black and white. There's nuance.
I mean, I guess the question about defining it that way is.
In the face of religious discrimination, such as where religion is no longer a protected class, why shouldn't those groups respond in crying? Also, parallel structures in community action. Wait, Andrew Shawan. I never said anything contrary to that. If religion was removed as a protected class, then yeah, like fucking bakeries would no longer have to make your Muslim cakes or whatever, but then Muslim could go create their own communities that would only serve Muslim people. Wait, I never disagreed with that. That's a consequence of removing religious affiliation from the protected classes list. Yeah, absolutely. What? Yeah, what? I never disagreed with that. What? Hello? Yes? What? Yeah.
That there's nothing illegal about saying we don't serve people who wear MAGA hats. Political orientation is not a politically protected class.
In D.C. it is. In Washington, D.C. it is.
Okay, which is outside of Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. has kind of like funky rules concerning political expression. The idea was, and this is the reason why people in Washington, D.C. can't vote, ye back in the ye olden days, okay? Back when all of the like politicians of America lived together in Washington, D.C. because if you were like a congressperson or a senator having to ride back and forth like on horseback from your state to the Capitol every time a decision had to be made was fucking stupid. But back in those days, Washington, D.C. was so suffuse with like political legislators and the people who work for them that the idea was that these people shouldn't be able to vote. They like are the government. We shouldn't let the government vote on the government. We should let the people vote on the government. But nowadays we've got like approximately 10 million people in Washington. Nah, it's like, what is it, like 100,000? I don't fucking know. But they have different rules concerning that kind of stuff.
It's not a protected class. Fashion, assuming that it is not inextricably linked to religion, which is a protected class, which would be like the MAGA hat, right? That would be a fashion statement. That's not a protected class. So by your definition, you also wouldn't be able to ask someone to leave because of their political affiliation, which is legal currently outside of Washington, D.C.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. So we're getting back to the brainlet takes. He's about to say that political affiliation should be a protected class. No. Holy fuck, no. The point of protected classes is protecting people for value neutral, intrinsic characteristics of their demographic identity, okay? Not for choices they make. Well, can you imagine a world in which businesses can't tell a person in an SS uniform to get out because it's an authentic and sincere affectation of their political identity? No fucking no. Holy shit, no. We'll get more to this. Vosh, I'm confused then. I thought you were arguing you'd be in favor of removing those protections. Sorry if it sounded like dog whistling, my bad. Well, I might be in favor of removing those protections, yeah, because religion is the only non-value neutral characteristic currently protected under the protected classes list. Everything else, nationality, ethnicity, age, sex, gender, none of these things have anything to do with what you believe, but religion does. Which means that's kind of in a funky, like, one-off position there. What if somebody's religion is like, hey, fuck black people? Like, that can be a religious belief. It was for a pretty long time for Christians! So I don't know. But I'm not fucking dog... Oh, wait, you said you might have been... No, okay. All right, let me keep going.
See, is that something you would want to see changed?
Potentially, and
Really?
it is complicated. So I'll explain. You know, if someone believes something awful and they're a taxpayer and they participate in public, I don't see what your argument is to remove someone arbitrarily from your business if they're not doing anything. You know, listen, I'll put it this
Well,
way.
the argument is private corporations are simply allowed by the law. You got to change the law if you don't want them to be able to do that.
They're allowed to kick anybody they want out.
Assuming they're not doing it on the basis of a protected class. Yeah, that's how it works.
Right.
Those signs that say we reserve the right to refuse service to anybody, that's legally accurate, assuming it's not violating the protected class non-discrimination laws.
Correct. You'll notice that there's no protected class for people not wearing shirts or sandals. Hence all of the signs.
So this is actually a really, really important thing to break down, because I think we get to the line drawing portion of tribal arguments.
Exactly.
Because I think we both we agree that people should be protected, but figuring out where and how far, I'm not entirely in favor of protecting political classes like DC does.
Oh, you're not?
And
Oh, I thought you just said you were.
Oh.
So the core concept of letting a law-abiding, calm, decent person, like your average person, go about their business, I like the idea. But it is there has to be a line drawn somewhere, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree.
And right, so for me, I think the line is, well, I agree. I think religion should be protected,
Mhm.
but political affiliation is where things start to get questionable to me.
Okay.
Outright. I'm not entirely against it. I'm interested in entertaining the concept. I maybe lean towards it, but it is challenging, and there's a lot of questions that I think need to be broken down to truly understand.
He leans towards it. Okay, yeah. No, there's no justification for this. Listen, politics is violence, folks, okay? Politics is inextricable from violence, all right? When you wear the MAGA hat, what you are saying as you walk around is, I support white supremacism. I support the deportation of ethnic minorities. I support the deportation of Muslims. I support legislating trans people out of existence. Everything that I believe, or at least many of the things that I believe, are suffused in institutional violence, and I am a representative of that violence. There is nothing wrong with kicking a person out of your business or not wanting a person to live in your place because they wear a fucking MAGA hat around. There is literally nothing wrong with this. Is being bald a protected class? Guys, there's nothing wrong with being bald. Not if you're a man and not if you're a woman. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's A-okay, my friends. I think personally, and this is more a problem for girls than guys, I think girls with shaved heads are cute as fuck. I think they're real fucking cute. I've always been here for that shit. I remember I had a crush on Natalie Portman in V for Vendetta back when I was a kid, when I first watched that movie, after her head gets shaved in the fake prison thing. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
And why or why not? And so ultimately, I'll put it this way: like, this conversation is part of the process of figuring out where to draw the line.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's like, right now it's not protected outside of DC. So if we want to go in the direction of saying any potential, I don't even know the right word to use, it's kind of difficult. I guess we're calling it a potential or actual customer or like patron of a business. One idea, which would be a significant move from where we are now, that you suggested is, if the person's doing something legal, right? If they're just there trying to buy a cake, for example, or whatever the case may be, and it's a business that is open to the public. Obviously, there are exceptions of businesses that simply aren't open to the public, which are sort of handled differently. If the person's not breaking the law in some way, a business should not be allowed to turn them away. That would require some pretty significant and heavy-handed government intervention in private business, would it not?
Oh,
yeah,
probably, yeah.
Wait, no,
Yeah,
wait. No, that's fucked. No, Unless a person is breaking the law, they shouldn't be able to be expelled for your business. There are a lot of ways you can make yourself obnoxious without breaking the law. You realize that just like under this like protection, a person could walk into a business and so, like just stand in the middle of the lobby or like in a restaurant like service area and shout, what is it? I am the very, yes, I'm going to do this. Give it for me. Okay. I am the very model of a modern major general. I have information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England, and I quote the funniest oracle from Marathon to Waterloo. There's nothing intrinsically illegal about this, but I'm going to stand for private business right now and say that if you own a business and somebody does that in your restaurant, you should be able to expel them from your restaurant, even if it's not legal. Listen, this is my pro-free speech, pro-business take, okay?
Is that philosophically, based on your self-described center-left politics, is that something you would be okay with?
I think the challenge is having the conversation and trying to figure out what to do is different from being like, I would like to assert the government do X. It's a challenge. Honestly, I don't have all the answers. What I do know is we face and I'm sorry if it's kind of like dodgy of the question, but you can re-ask me again. I'm just trying to get my thoughts out.
Yeah.
If we get to a point in society where we start restricting access to businesses, things start to break down. I think even in terms of like international endeavors and international conflict, we want to have as many links to each other as possible. The more trade we have with other countries, the less likely we are to engage in conflict. At least that's my general understanding of a lot of history.
Are you a globalist? Tim Pool, are you a globalist? Ooh, maybe he's not an anti-Semite. We'll see.
So it's a challenge, right? If we said no religion could, if we had no protected classes, you see the story. It was written about by Will Chamberlain. Lyndon Johnson would send 3 of his staffers to drive from D.C. to his home in Austin through the South, and they were all black. And one day he said, "Will you take my dog with you?" And they explained to him that they drive for hours to try and find a bathroom because they won't be allowed to use these businesses. So that's when Lyndon Johnson was like, "Oh my God, this is a bad thing."
Yeah.
And I agree. And so the challenge is, how far do we go in trying to protect everybody? Can we go too far? And this is one of the debates, I think, with everything. It's particularly the Equality Act right now.
Well, it's not about protecting everybody. It's about determining who should be protected and why. It's not, I don't want to protect everybody. There are lots of people who I don't believe deserve protections. It's not just about who can you protect and to what extent. This is this is like a slippery little kind of it's not a dog whistle. Fuck, I'm still tired. What's the term? A little straw man that they slip in for left-leaning views. The idea that left-leaning people want to like make everyone equal and get rid of all equality and everyone's the same and everyone gets treated the same is completely not true. We still have values. We're not value neutral. There are things we don't want to protect. Things like fascism, racism, white supremacy. I don't think these things should be protected, and I don't think that institutional or political alignments that protect these values should be protected either. Abolish ICE.
Is why there's a lot of contention around that. Who is worthy of protection and who isn't? For me, I honestly don't know. My bigger issue, and again, I'll throw it back to you to re-ask anything you think I may have missed, is that social media platforms are monopolizing the commons in terms of commerce, financial transactions, and speech.
Okay, so let's get to so I want to go to social media next.
Please get to the interesting shit, because we've been on the fucking protected classes shit for too long.
Just to make sure I understand your position on this piece, you said you don't like the idea of telling businesses that they have to accept certain customers, or you're not in favor of changing the law to make it so that businesses have to accept certain customers if they don't want to. Did I read that correctly?
Well, let me try and clarify. I think civil rights law as it is today is fantastic.
Okay.
There's probably some redundancies and some hiccups. I don't know all the laws. I think we need to have a conversation around civil rights protections as it pertains to local and federal jurisdiction. I don't know if political affiliation should be protected, particularly because there's a lot of crazy people out there who believe crazy things who probably we shouldn't allow in certain circumstances. But you brought up a good point about religion, because religions also believe crazy things. So I admit it's a big challenge.
But at the business regulation standpoint, in terms of the government coming in and mandating, I'm
totally in favor of government coming and putting the boot down on all of these corporations that are destroying the environment, that are not paying a dime in taxes, that are putting their money overseas, that are generally disrupting things, and then pitting us all against each other. Like, I'm not going to go on a rant, but yes, absolutely.
Ooh, Tim Pool coming in hard with those anti-capitalist takes. Good on you, Tim. All right, we reached 30 minutes in, which means I've been neglecting my donators for too long, okay? Narrator Music wants to debate you. He's on his Discord. I don't care. I'm doing a fucking Tim Pool thing.
And let me just, and we're going to move on to social media, but I want to be super sure I understand this. Obviously, multinationals who don't pay taxes, that's more of a regulatory issue when it comes to finances. But imagine the customer walking into a clothing store, and the customer, for whatever reason that is not related to a protected class, the store doesn't want to do business with them. Should the government say to the store, you have to, unless this person's doing something illegal, you have to accept them as a customer, or should the business be allowed to say, please leave, we don't want to serve you?
I think that's too absolute. There's too many factors. It's nuanced. I would say there's no yes or no answer to that question, right? Is the person screaming? Is it? Do we not know?
But that's the whole point. It's an act. They're not doing anything which is criminal, but they're also not being asked to leave on the basis of a protected class in which they are members. It's just the business doesn't want to do business with them. Should a private business have the right to say, we don't want to do business with you, or should the government force them to do business?
Now it depends on the scale, right?
Oh my God. This is like listening to a high schooler try to work out their arguments in real time. Please. I don't want to skip because I don't want to prove that one donator right, but please, fucking God, please get on to free speech shit, because I know Tim Pool is a fucking moron when it comes to this.
If it's small hole in the wall that sells hot dogs, and he says, you know what, no hot dog for you. Well, it's a small hot dog shop. If it's something like the electric company, then probably not, because you don't have any choices. And so when a company gets too big, it dominates. And so it's a really nuanced question.
Well,
right?
Yes and no. I mean, monopoly utilities, I would argue, are a bit different from what we're talking about here.
Let's say what's a good way to put it? There's only one cable company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should Comcast, in the area where they own it, refuse internet service to certain people for no reason? I would say no. Most
of those companies...
Well, it wouldn't be for no reason. No corporation is going to refuse to accept your money for no reason.
Would have... I mean, I think that one is actually not really a very important question, because when Comcast comes in, typically, and I was involved in the negotiation of such a contract when I was on the board of a TV station, typically the contract that Comcast signs with the municipality says that they're not allowed to do that. So it actually would not really be an issue.
Sounds like the government regulating that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please, God, please, God, please. Oh, God, please, I'm so bored. Please, God.
I am not a free market. I believe in a mixed economy. I think you need the government to come in and correct errors and stuff like that.
Okay.
So if we're notified of an error or something going wrong, I think I think that's what the government should be doing, saying kind of like a referee, this is what you can't be doing.
I agree there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about social media a little bit. So I did a long piece about social media and regulation.
Who is Narrator Music, and why do they want to debate me?
As town square, public square sort of situation, because of the market share that some of these social media platforms have gained, and maybe it goes beyond just enforcing terms of service, or maybe it doesn't, and what's sort of best for the individual, what's best for society, all of this different stuff. To get us into that piece of it, Tim, my view fundamentally is that private companies have to be allowed to enforce terms of service, assuming that the enforcement of those terms of service is not discriminatory on the basis of the protected classes that you and I just spent 20 minutes talking about, and I guess mostly agree with. That's my starting
But they're
point.
exempt.
Okay,
they're exempt.
Give me an example.
Yes, they
You're
are.
talking about Washington,
Yes.
right?
No, I'm straight up. Twitter right now has the right to ban any protected class. Twitter can say, we're not going to allow any Asians on the platform. Boop. And they can't stop.
Do they? Wait, that has to be wrong. Are social media companies exempt from protected class laws? That has to be wrong. What the fuck is this? This is nothing. There's no fucking way. It absolutely okay. David okay, they talk about this later. David debunks this. Okay, well,
my reading of that so I know that there's court testimony that you tweeted, which I reviewed, and I reviewed the context of that and some legal opinions. That's not the opinion that I came away with. The opinion that I came away with is not, and let me see if I'll distinguish it the way I understand it, and then you tell me if I'm maybe misunderstanding it. My reading of the test, and this may be getting sort of too in the weeds for some in the audience, maybe not.
It's really not. You have to debunk Tim Pool if he fallaciously states that social media companies are exempted from protected class laws. Are you fucking kidding me? That would be insane. If Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Pinterest or Reddit or whatever could literally just be like, oh yeah, actually we're all whites only. We're just whites. Oh yeah, okay. Just like, Ooh, what's that? Puerto Rican? Thanos snap. Ooh, what's that? Cambodian? I'm gonna go with Thanos snap. Ooh, a Muslim? Ooh, we're double Thanos snapping you, but no, what?
But we'll give it a shot. My understanding of the testimony.
I did see a dating app exclusively for Asian people. Listen, there are some circumstances in which a business is allowed to petition its ability to serve a particular clientele. Like, for example, like Asian people dating. Dating websites are a good example of this. Like women's only gyms, for example. There are ways to get around protected class laws, but in like 99.9% of cases, they apply ubiquitously to all business.
That you linked me to is that it is not that Twitter could say as a policy, we do not allow Asian people on our platform. I've seen no serious legal opinion that that is something Twitter would be able to do. My understanding is that if there is a type of speech that Twitter identifies that would disproportionately wrap up Asian people, that is something Twitter is asserting would be legally acceptable.
Yeah, that's
in terms
fine.
of in terms of that particular testimony.
Yeah.
But as we know from the motherboard piece, at least one employee said they use an algorithm to sweep up to target ISIS, which actually sweeps up innocent Muslims.
But that's exactly the point I'm making, which is that's not them. Twitter is not saying as a policy we don't allow Muslims. They're saying we have a policy to target ISIS, which is mostly made up of Muslims, which will trigger some false positives.
So I guess the challenge then is,
I would love to go over the video where Tim Pool lies about this. There is such a huge fucking difference between a business being able to discriminate against a set of values which disproportionately affect certain groups of protected classes than there is between banning those protected classes itself. I'm pretty sure if you ban white nationalism or overt racism, you're gonna catch a pretty large number of white people. Not many, because you've got fucks like JLP, and apparently Tim Pool over here, who I consider part of the alt-right, is apparently half Asian. There are plenty of non-white, white ethnostaters, but you're still gonna get mostly white people, you know? That doesn't make it discrimination against white people.
are we enforcing rules at a policy level or an individual level?
I love
If
black
Oh,
someone
I
people.
is-
agree. We completely. That's a key question. But I don't want anybody to think that what you're asserting, unless it is what you're asserting, is that
So wait, does that mean, and this is a legit question, maybe I'm just an idiot, can someone please explain, could I make a whites only gym? No, you couldn't. Because a woman's only gym can make an argument that there is a substantive, valid, and non-discriminatory purpose for which their business exists. Like, it's not as though it's not as though there's a history of there being women's only spaces that exist to ostracize or excommunicate black people from their environment. Like, when we have a woman's shelter and a woman's only gym, these are spaces that are generally constructed, by the way, spaces I don't agree with. I don't like these places, but at least not on an ideological level, even if they're practically valuable. But you can make an argument hey, when women go to gyms, they tend to get kind of creeped on a lot by dudes because they like wearing the yoga pants so the big booty pop, and then the guy goes, let me try to do it. And then the girl turns around, she's like, hey, can you not? But the guy's dick is already out and he's jerking it. You can make a valid argument that the implementation of a woman's only gym serves a community purpose, much in the same way you could say the same about a restroom, a woman's only restroom. Same with a woman's shelter. You couldn't make the same argument with white people. It's not like we live in a society where white people are constantly being attacked by non-white people and harassed and threatened to the extent that white people are afraid of going to mixed race businesses. This doesn't happen. This does not happen. So you could not prove a sincere need, and therefore that business, this whites only gym you've proposed, would be discriminatory. But I think that's a valid question. It's not a stupid question at all.
yeah, go ahead.
So let's dig into it.
Yeah.
What is the Twitter public accommodation that you can say something and it will appear in reverse chronological order to those who subscribe to it?
Right.
That is the public accommodation. According to civil rights law, you cannot restrict a public accommodation based on protected characteristics. If someone quotes a verse from the Quran, Twitter can remove that.
Okay, you're saying at the individual level or through an algorithm that is meant to identify ISIS members?
No, Twitter, a Twitter employee has the First Amendment and Section 230 right to say anything pertaining to this protected class we can remove because Twitter is a speech
But that's
platform.
the thing. So here's where I think, and I don't know if we're
He's wrong.
talking past each other or if we actually disagree about what the policy is or if we're just misunderstanding what the policy is. What I'm saying is I have seen no evidence, nor any legal opinion, nor have I seen Twitter say that they believe they could have a policy that says we do not allow, for example, Jews on Twitter, and that would be legal.
So
they
let's,
could,
let's
yeah.
So let's try and bring it to the real world.
Okay.
The way you're describing it would be that McDonald's says, no, Jews are allowed in the store. We just refuse to sell them cheeseburgers. You see what I mean?
No, this is such a stupid fucking comparison. There is such a huge difference between implementing algorithmic policies that will disproportionately affect a group of people and flat out banning that group of people. There's such a huge fucking difference. It works the same with literally every other business, okay? We can go back to the religion one, okay? If you own a business and like a Muslim, and like you can't discriminate against Muslims, okay? So if a person comes in wearing a fucking, what are they called? God, I'm so bad at this. I'm gonna sound racist. The babushka hat? No, the shawl. They wrap a scarf around the ladies. They wrap a fucking scarf around their head, okay? I don't know what it's called. A habib? God, I'm so tired. Hijab. I'm so fucking tired right now. God damn it. A G-job. Babushka. Chica блядь. Okay, so if a lady came in with a hijab or whatever, okay, you couldn't kick her out for that because that's a sincere and authentic expression of her religious belief, okay? But if she came into the business and she held up the Quran or whatever, and she starts like reading the section, listen, I've never read the fucking Quran, okay? But all religious texts are fucking yikesy. If she held up the Quran and started reading out loud sections about like, how apostates need to be stoned and how, like, the one true religion under the eyes of Allah and everyone else is an apostate and they are unto less than. I don't think Muslims even believe this. I think actually historically Muslims have actually been incredibly fucking tolerant of non-Muslims. Like during the Islamic Golden Age, I think they were actually one of the first like theocratic societies with like a really like hard caliphate bent to be incredibly accepting of Christians and Jews. Actually, it's incredible how progressive Muslims were back during that time period. Whatever the case is, though, there's something in the Quran that sucks, and if they started reading out loud a bunch of shitty fucking Quran verses, the business would have every right to kick them out, okay? It's the exact same with Twitter, okay? You can't fucking ban people for being white or gay or whatever, but you can ban people for things that disproportionately affect one group over another, all right? Everything that Tim Pool is saying right here, that there's some difference in the way the law treats social media companies, is factually wrong.
The point of Twitter.
I'm not sure that that's the right analogy.
So let's check it out. Twitter is a platform where you can express your thoughts.
Okay.
You can go on and you can. Otherwise, what are you really doing? Nothing. Like that's all Twitter does. Twitter has a First Amendment and Section 230 argument where they say whatever it is you say, we can remove it for any reason. And the judge asked, are you saying you could remove someone even if it would be discriminatory based on religion or gender? And the response from Twitter's lawyers was yes.
Right. So that I think you're misunderstanding that testimony. And there's a page that follows it or a sequence that follows it that I think is very illuminating. I'll just give an example, and maybe the analogy will allow us to move forward on this. Imagine that Twitter wants to. I mean, let's just take the one from we were talking about earlier. Twitter wants to enforce a ban on anti-Semitic content. Okay, let's imagine that that's something Twitter decided they were going to do. Anti-Semitic content on Twitter is not equally balanced between men and women. We don't even have to argue about what the split is, but we would just agree it's very unlikely that it's 50-50 or 50.3 and 49.7 the way that men and women exist in society. Anti-Semitic content on Twitter is not evenly balanced between right-wingers and left-wingers. An ADL study says 71% is right-wing. Number doesn't matter. You might disagree with the number, but let's just imagine it's not evenly
Imagine believing only. I know that he's just throwing out a random number here, but like 71% of anti-Semitic content is right-wing. I'm going to have to go with a little higher. Listen, okay? All of it is right-wing except for the one time I said the U.S. should bomb Israel, okay? On stream. That got me banned off Twitch permanently. That was the one time. And even that wasn't anti-Semitic. Listen, I love Jews, okay? Beautiful people.
distributed. What Twitter is asserting is
I've heard you, Juan Carlos, I've heard you say there's no compulsion religion. You apparently can't force people to convert or kill people. Oh, wait. Yeah. The Quran, unironically, and I'm being serious about this, the Quran is a lot more progressive than the Bible. At least from like the meta-analyses that I've read, it seems like the Quran is actually a lot more forgiving, patient, and pacifist than the Bible is, like by far, even the New Testament.
If indeed 71% of anti-Semitic content comes from right-wingers, we are going to be disproportionately removing the content of and banning conservatives or right-wingers or whatever term you want to use.
This is literally a correlation versus causation argument that Tim Pool can't understand.
Twitter is not saying we would legally be able to say, no, imagine that they're white conservatives, just for our argument, because we got to add a protected class. Twitter's not saying if we wanted to ban all white conservatives from Twitter, we would be allowed to do it. That would violate a very specific non-discrimination law. What they are saying is that if the practice of removing anti-Semitic content disproportionately targets people who happen to be white, as long as we're not removing people for being white, that is legal. And I agree that that's legal.
Which is exactly the same, by the way, as every other business in America. Every other business in America gets the exact same legal right. That was just described there in application to Twitter. I would love to see the video where Tim Pool reads the fucking testimony from the lawyers and interprets it as them saying they can ignore protected class law. I would love to tear into that. What a fucking idiot.
That's a really interesting. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
It's not just a good point. It's the obvious fucking reading of the court case. I haven't even watched the court case, but I know for a fact that if any judge or any fucking lawyer had put forth testimony suggesting that social media companies are exempt from protected class legislation, there would have been a fucking riot over it. Christ.
We're seeing now, I think, with the digital space is that we've actually got a distinction between people as thoughts and the thoughts related to certain characteristics and identities and the individual themselves and their identity. Because I think by your explanation, and again, I think it's a good point, Twitter couldn't actually ban someone for being gay because they're banning the speech specifically, right?
No,
like if someone, so I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
If someone was gay and made a post talking about the things they do as a gay person, Twitter could ban them, right?
Well, I guess if they had a policy that said that you can't talk about gay things, I don't know.
No, if they had a policy saying, like, you can't discuss sexually explicit content, and, like, a bunch of gay people were like, woo, dicks, then they could get banned for that, and that would be well and legal. But they couldn't have a policy saying you can't talk about gay shit, because that would violate the protected class legislation.
No, I'm saying, like, from a legal standpoint, based on the First Amendment argument, that Twitter's under no obligation to support the speech of anyone else, right? So if you're saying so let's Twitter does have a policy that bans hate speech, which means because
gayness is inherently sexual. That's not true at all. Even if you ignore the fact that there are plenty of ways to be gay and express your gay identity without actually engaging in anything sexual, there are asexual gay people, men who are asexual, who fall in love with other gay men but have no interest in anything sexual or genital or whatever.
Like you said, it's predominantly coming from one side. They predominantly get banned.
Yeah.
And we're speaking hypothetically because I don't know the numbers, but for the sake, it's again, I think it's a good point. It's something I hadn't realized. There is going to be a distinction between the individual's identity and the ideas. The ideas don't have an identity.
Right. So are you agreeing that you asserting that Twitter claims they can ban people on the basis of protected classes was not an accurate reading?
I think you're correct, but I do want to clarify.
He's admitting he's wrong. Hey, if you were wrong, Tim Pool, then take down the video that you put up on the subject and every video since that you've used which cites that.
I think what we're actually seeing is that there are certain ideas associated with identity politics.
Yes.
And that Twitter has the ability to remove ideas around certain groups that are specific to that group. For instance.
I agree.
Right. So this is a really great distinction. This is fantastic. Twitter's not going to say, hey, you're Muslim, you're gone. Like, let's say a Muslim guy says, I'd like to order pizza. And they say, you're Muslim, you're banned. What they're actually saying is the ideas associated with the Quran, that verse in particular, we're going to remove.
Okay. Right. And it will disproportionately impact people who are Muslim.
Right.
Yeah.
But you couldn't say that verse in the Quran because that would still be religious targeting. You could say that you have a policy against advocating for, I don't fucking know, stoning or honor killings. And that might affect Muslim people disproportionately. This is such a fucking... This is a nothing conversation. Nothing is happening right now. Because the problem is right now Tim Pool is like, oh yeah, I just had a problem with the phrasing of this. Oh wait, you're saying that I was wrong and that the massive claim that I made that social media corporations don't have to follow protected class legislation was completely bullshit, and I just misread the legalese that was being said. Oh yeah, okay, well no biggie. Yeah, it's very nuanced. Yeah, big brain ideas, you know. Yeah, just requires a lot of nuance. When Tim Pool, after this interview was done, went right back home and continued editing his far right anti-left videos about how we need to nationalize media so that conservative fucking Nazis and white nationalists can get their fair shake. Okay. This is so fucking obnoxious. Like, what David Pakman needs to do right now is he needs to slam his hands down and be like, then why did you make a video about it? Why have you continued to cite that video since then if it's so easy for me to indicate to you that your interpretation of the lawyer testimony was wrong? And furthermore, why is it that you're using this minor tangential interpretation as a fucking Trojan horse for the suggestion that social media companies need to be nationalized because otherwise conservatives are going to be discriminated against? You're propagating a far right conspiracy theory, and right now you're dressing it up as like the parsing of legal terminology in one testimony of Twitter lawyers. That's what David Pakman needs to do right now.
I think there's another important distinction here, which is whether this is being done algorithmically and people are being caught up in false positives versus...
Oh, God. Narrator music. Why do I want to debate you? I want to clear up some questions regarding the Poppy logs. I have specific questions. I want to support you based on your vids, but unless you progress, that's problematic. Dude, you can do whatever the fuck you want. A few days ago, I had like a Poppy defender on, like literally 2 days ago, and they were subhumanly stupid. They were actually like if they got hit by a car, like if my car hit them or something, it would be like, oh, fuck. Rip that bug. Like, oh, well, there's another bug. Like, they were below moral consideration for me. They were so stupid. They literally said that, like, Poppy does, like, it would be justified in mailing an anthrax envelope to me as retribution. So, unless you've got some really fucking good takes, I don't want to hear it.
Whether Twitter is saying, as a policy, we are going to proactively remove Quran verses that relate to pizza, or whatever example you had. I mean, I think that's an issue, because when you go back to Twitter said, we have to be careful about algorithmically removing white nationalist content because...
No, we don't.
Like you said, a lot of Trumpists use similar language, and we're going to...
No, trust me. You don't have to be careful. Also, this is a false equivalence in the first place because they're talking about the conflation between protected classes and, like, values related to those protected classes, but that's not a distinction which exists here. Oh, being a white nationalist and being a conservative, neither of these things are protected classes. We're not brushing up against protected class law here. This has nothing to do with protected classes. All of this is a fucking red herring for a far-right conspiracy theory.
To end up removing Trumpists who, I mean, I guess aren't white supremacists. I guess maybe if they're using the language, maybe they are. I don't know.
All Trumpists are white supremacists or permissive of white supremacy.
No, they expressed a concern about that. That is an algorithmic false positive.
So I think the argument made by the Twitter employee was that a lot of white nationalists will use like the Pepe meme as well, and they'll do like the OK hand sign. Mm-hmm. But a lot of Trump supporters will use some like
Tim Pool. Did you, the person who made multiple videos mocking the far left outrage culture for getting hysterical over like allegedly white nationalists doing the OK sign. Did you just admit that that's a white nationalist thing? Did you just do that? Tim Fool.
You know, I think MAGA is the easiest way to put it. You
right.
absolutely are going to have white nationalists saying MAGA.
Sure.
And then if the algorithm detects that overwhelmingly people who talk about these issues also have this hashtag, it will start grabbing innocent people, right?
Good. Hey, then maybe conservatives should work a little bit harder to distance themselves from white nationalists, huh? Ooh, sure is. You know what? Maybe this wouldn't be much of a problem if these supposed, like, principled conservatives who aren't a part of this white nationalist group did a little bit more to distinguish themselves from the white nationalists rather than kowtowing to them at every fucking turn.
That would be interesting. I think the more relevant example is the opposite, though, because so many people use MAGA that it's very hard to imagine that Twitter would execute a policy.
Is it MAGA? Isn't it MAGA? Wait. Can we listen, type 1 in chat if it's MAGA and type 2 if it's MAGA, okay? Because I've always known it as MAGA, not MAGA. 1 if MAGA, 2 if MAGA. Okay, everyone agrees it's MAGA. Okay, just making sure. I don't often hear that spoken aloud.
Of banning anyone who says MAGA, and it'll accidentally wrap up some white nationalists. I think a better example, Tim, and tell me if you disagree, would be that
And again, Tim Pool doing his little slippery. See, this is the nice thing. Because Tim's head is mush, like a cockroach, he can slip into spaces up to 2 inches wide. What Tim Pool is saying here is that if we ban MAGA because white nationalists use it, then it'll catch conservatives too. Okay, what if we catch terms that aren't a little bit, that aren't even a little bit ambiguous? What about stuff like Jews will not replace us? Or stuff pertaining to the Great Replacement Theory, or stuff about Zionists controlling the government, or more stuff about racial discrimination, or ethno-states, or race realism, or valid IQ differences. I feel like there are a lot of ways that you could catch alt-right talking points without risking coming too close to like the conservative shit. Unless, of course, conservatives also have a tendency to repeat alt-right talking points. I don't know. Oh, what a moral conundrum!
there would be some kind of phraseology that it's mostly white nationalists using, which some Trumpists that are not white nationalists might use, and it's the Trumpists who would accidentally get banned, because what you're describing would be
I love you, Hyena. Good luck.
a policy that would actually be targeting Trumpists that would accidentally impact white nationalists. Twitter's saying it would be the opposite.
Oh, I see. Well, it was I think it was it James Woods maybe, who posted the Christchurch Pepe Clown World thing?
I'm not sure. I don't follow him.
James Woods found himself using, yes, an overt white nationalist meme, and I don't think he knew what it was. So
wait a second. Did you just say Clown World is an overt white nationalist meme? You made a video 2 fucking weeks ago about how it wasn't, and how the hysterical left. You literally made a video saying like, "Hey, we're in a clown world, honk honk." He after he's done here, he's literally going to go right back to editing videos, and he's going to make another video where he says like the hysterical left sees racism wherever they look, and that it's just a harmless clown meme, and just because a few white nationalists use it doesn't make it a white nationalist meme. No, I can't believe I just heard that. Hold on.
The Christchurch Pepe Clown World thing?
I'm not sure. I don't follow him.
James Woods found himself using, yes, an overt white nationalist meme.
What do I do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do about somebody who's so dishonest that he'll make content saying it's not a white nationalist meme, and then go on an interview or debate or whatever and say it is a white nationalist meme, and then he's going to go right back to saying it's not? What do I do? Can we clip this? Hey, clippers, when this video goes live, when I edit it and re-upload it, okay, hey, listen, clipsters, I'm going to need you to clip that little 15-second thing right there, and I'm going to need you to play the Curb Your Enthusiasm music over all of the other video clips and screenshots and pieces of social media produced by Tim Pool about how Clown World and Hong Kong are completely neutral and not racist at all, and the far left is hysterical for whining about them, okay? I really need that, and you need to have the dates up there too, so it makes it clear that this isn't like a 1 year apart thing. This is just him saying whatever shit is most convenient for him at any given time. What the fuck? This would be like if fucking if like Steven Crowder or whatever was on like a talk show or whatever, and like completely unprompted he was like, and yeah, that's why we, like, on our show we try to get people to like hate black people and Muslims, because we hate black people and Muslims, you know. And then he just continues talking without acknowledging it, and then he goes back to pretending he doesn't right when the videos keep going. I don't understand. Okay, all right. This culture war is a clown world. This culture war is a clown world. I did this video on my channel. He says it's not a white nationalist dog whistle. This is from April 14th. This is less than a month ago. He's done other shit too on Twitter in his discussions with other people. Okay. All right, let's keep it going. I think he said a Clown World meme specifically about the Christchurch shooter. No, there's no context in which what he just said isn't an admission that the Clown World meme is not a white nationalist meme. There is no interpretation of what he just said that doesn't follow through on that.
And I don't think he knew it was. So,
okay.
You know, I think that probably is a good example.
Is this face on Pakman him like wondering whether or not to say that Tim Pool is one of the people pushing this Clown World meme? I don't know. He's so fucking stone cold.
It would have been like, get him out of there. But it's, you know, some of these things, I don't know. You have an argument on the left of whether or not the OK hand sign is actually like a white supremacist hand sign.
Right, but that's not the relevant argument when it comes to the legality of what...
Wait, he just acknowledged that the Clown World thing is white supremacist. Now you're saying the left is arguing over whether or not the OK sign is? Hey, guys, want to check out my Twitter feed? Hey, we've got some great retweets going on today. Let's listen. Guys. So these are the Las Vegas chapter, the leader of the Las Vegas chapter of Turning Point USA, okay? This isn't some rando.
Yes.
I love these guys.
Dude, we're gonna rule the country. White power.
White
Fuck
power.
the niggers.
Yeah.
Fuck the
Fuck them all.
niggers.
Fuck them all. That's right.
White power. Fuck N-words. White power. We're gonna rule the nation. White power. I don't know. Just the left has this. The left getting hysterical over the OK sign. I don't see any association between the OK sign and just white nationalism. I'm not seeing it. Here's a picture of a black person 40 years ago holding up the OK sign. Oh, I found a picture of Martin Luther K sign. He gave this sign signaling racism had ended. Are you saying Martin Luther King was a white nationalist? Really makes you think.
Twitter's asserting it can do, which I think is the more important thing. I mean, yeah, the left can debate, the right can
Well, no,
debate, the right can debate whether referring to money as shekels is implicitly anti-Semitic or not. The left can debate whether the hand sign.
Wait, the right never debates whether or not referring to money as shekels is anti-Semitic or not. They know it is, and they do it anyway. Wait, this is disingenuous on David Pakman's on fucking Pakboy's terms over here, okay? The right doesn't debate that. They use it because they know it's anti-Semitic. Because one of fascism's sort of core tenets is this very shallow critique of capitalism, insofar as like the globalists stealing our beautiful traditional Aryan lifestyle by like facilitate by you know, so we've got the Jews and it's like these shekels, and there's a difference between like global capitalist shekels with the echo signs and like regular money that you use to buy a hot dog. You know what I mean? Like this is a substantive distinction right here.
Is or is not. But the more important thing to me is I want to make sure that we're not putting out false information about what Twitter is asserting they could legally do.
No, I think you did a good job when we kind of clarified that. I think, you know, a lot of these debates come down to perspective, right? I'm looking at
James Wood, Tim Pool, James Wood. Is this it? That doesn't look like it's it. Stop lagging. Stop lagging! I have literally no idea what I'm supposed to be looking for here, and I'm done looking for it. Yeah, there's probably like a fucking billion pieces of... Whoa! Hey, guys, look! At the point of the video that I stopped in the super chat from this debate on David Pakman's channel, there's somebody referencing me. Camero56 is asking Anarchy Doodle if they've seen them in Vosh. Yes! I'm a big boy! I'm a big boy! I'm a big boy now. Somebody just posted the thingy. All right, I'll take a look at this tweet, then we can get back to it. popular. No one's ever heard of. That's a tweet. I know about this interview. I thought it was gonna be the fucking James Wood thing. All right, shut up. Fuck all of you. Oh, God. That is really cool, though, that my name got, like, mentioned. Like, I know it's not a big deal. Just, I don't know. Okay, let's keep going.
At a 6, you're looking at a 9. But I will say, I think it's fair to say what we've kind of concluded is that Twitter isn't banning someone for being a thing. They're banning for ideas pertaining to a thing, right?
That's based on the testimony you sent me that I read. That's my.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you think you're right, why'd you make a video on it, Tim Pool? Ooh, it's almost like critical engagement with the idea wasn't as easy or as profitable as just perpetuating an alt-right conspiracy theory.
I guess my concern is,
Yeah.
should we protect the ideas pertaining to being trans, for instance?
Well, that was going to be my next question, which is, okay,
First Vosh stream for me, but I've seen you referenced in a lot of other left dude streams. Boom! I like hearing that.
given that we've established, we had sort of like part pre-A of the conversation was what are Tim Pool's politics. But once we got past that, we got into what is our sense of protected classes and non-discrimination law. Then we got into what is it that we believe Twitter can currently legally do, and what does Twitter seem to believe they can currently do. The next question is, does there need to be policy change, and what should that policy change be? And doesn't it get into the very overt government intrusion into private businesses?
See, this is the problem that I have with people like David Pakman. Again, this is the first thing that I've ever seen of David Pakman, so I'm completely bullshitting right here. But this is the problem that I have from people who typically act like this, okay? Tim Pool is a far-right, disingenuous, bad faith actor who repeats far-right conspiracy theories and talking points, who defends white nationalists on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and YouTube, who constantly attacks and maligns the left and left-leaning figures. He is unquestionably, if not pro-right, at least representative of the interests of the far right. What David Pakman needs to be doing here is hitting him home on all of this. Like, Tim Pool literally just fucking admitted that Clown World is a white nationalist meme, and that he was completely wrong in his interpretation of the Twitter lawyer testimony, okay? So now David Pakman needs to go, then why the fuck are you perpetuating this ridiculous conspiracy theory that Twitter is actually, like, discriminating against people for their protected classes? Why the fuck are you doing that? Why do you have an audience of, like, exclusively right-leaning people if you're so liberal? Why do you exclusively serve the interests of alt-right figures? What the fuck are you doing? But he won't do it because civility. Because, wouldn't want to get my fucking hands dirty with my nice, clean, white fucking button-up and my fucking combed-back hair. Dirt wins, okay? If I had Dave Pakman's kind of reach, and I had Tim Pool on, over the course of an hour and 15 minutes, I could crush him. I could just flatten him. It'd be so fucking easy. And it's not because I'm like this big brain boy. It's not because I'm super smart and because I have all the cool rhetorical tricks. It's very simply because he is a obviously bad faith actor. And I can highlight the hypocrisies in what he says and what he does very, very easily. And he would either have to admit to being a liar or a grifter, or he would have to dig himself in deeper. It's that simple. It just frustrates me that David Pakman has this reach and he's not using it. He's not using it to that effect, you know?
I don't know the answer. I guess we have to start thinking about it.
You realize Pakman's softballs is why right-wingers go onto his shows? That's true. That is a thing. However, I do believe that he could be going a lot harder here.
I'm not opposed to the government stepping in when changes need to be made. But
what would we want the government to do?
So this is a serious challenge.
Super Fighting Robot says, I don't know, dude. Even Hyena thinks your debates come out a little boring. I think that's just because you and your opponent just yelled at each other often. For one, Super Fighting Robot, I've only been in like 4 or 5 debates that I've had hosted on this channel. And for 2, I'm not talking about whether or not they're boring. I'm talking about efficacious rhetoric, okay? I do not need... Listen, buddy, you're on thin ice already with those fucking CP allegations, okay? I got my fucking eye on you. You say something I don't like again, I'm permabanning you. It's not even a matter of principle. I just don't fucking like you. Also, how the fuck can you accuse me of being boring? I'm like the least boring political fucking lefty tuber that there is. I'm edgy, I'm aggressive, I'm confrontational, and I'm rhetorically proficient. I am so far from being boring. Yeah, and Hyena's telling you to fuck off. So yeah, do fuck off, Super Fighting Robot. You're on the thinnest conceivable ice.
That has a lot of questions that have to be answered. I don't know all the answers. What I do know is you have a large group of people in the mainstream who believe certain things and a large group of people in the mainstream who believe the opposite. Misgendering is the best example. Now, there's a lot of people who think, they try and mischaracterize my argument that I'm trying to argue in favor of people being transphobic. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I don't like
to be clear,
speech.
to my audience, let's give Tim the full good faith benefit.
Why?
Whether you believe he's earned it or not, and I'm not implying he has or hasn't, but because this is his first appearance on my channel,
See, again, no, this is civility politics. Oh, this alt-right conspiracy theorist dog whistler who acts in bad faith and is a fucking moron. It's the first time on my channel. Let's be nice to him.
let's assume that his argument is only what he claims it is and not read more into it. Okay.
Whoa, what did I just read? Low-key, you very cringe, but you cool. Oh, you're banned. Get the fuck out of here. Maybe one day I'll unban you. Cringe. Get the fuck out of my fucking chat. Just because I'm an anarchist doesn't mean I rule. Doesn't mean I don't rule this fucking stream like an autocrat. Okay? Cringe. Get the fuck out of here. You think my frequent dabbings are cringe? You think that's cringe, huh? You think me talking about big dicks is cringe? Well, fuck off. Wait, let me unban you. That wasn't fair. There we go. I unbanned you, Will Ev. All right.
Ben Shapiro has one of the top podcasts in the world.
Okay.
He has a massive following, and his views are considered to be mainstream. I disagree.
Whoa! Nobody considers Ben Shapiro's views to be mainstream. Are you fucking kidding me? He's far right. David Pakman, do not let him normalize far right rhetoric that way.
Agree with the good majority of his views. But I recognize that in order to bring about sound policy in the direction I want, we have to champion over those ideas through politics, through debate. Well, Ben Shapiro believes that misgendering isn't a thing. That if someone is born biologically male, they're a he, and if someone is born biologically female, they're a she, etc.
In opposition to the testimony of global health organizations that have studied the issue for decades and unilaterally determined that gender is in fact a social construct and that transitioning and the condition of being trans is perfectly valid and normal and natural and healthy.
Twitter has a rule specifically that you can't do that. That you have to use the pronoun someone requested. So the most notable instance would be Megan Murphy. And I'm not going to get into, for those that aren't familiar, she did have some tweets which talked about people specifically, but she had one tweet that was in response to an argument about the 1950s where she said, "Men aren't women, though." And she was suspended from Twitter for that.
Good.
Okay.
Whether you agree or disagree, I think it's important to recognize the left believes respect the pronoun, and the right says don't respect the personal pronouns.
Yeah. Well, great. You just said it. You framed it perfectly, Tim Pool. Thank you. The left says, hey, be respectful of people. And the right says, hey, be disrespectful to people. Wow. What an easy binary to take a side on, huh? If you have any shred of dignity.
If Twitter has a policy in place that restricts what you can or can't say, it disproportionately affects conservatives who are engaging in a mainstream perspective.
Right.
Okay, yeah, just wait. So is Tim Pool, Brainlit Pool, saying right now that it's unfair for conservatives on Twitter to harass and discriminate against trans people because that's a mainstream position? Tim Pool, fucking slam that beanie into a wall, okay? What the fuck is wrong with you? Slavery was once a mainstream position. Women not being able to vote was once a black people not getting to share the same water fountain. Fucking right now, whether or not bigotry is mainstream does not legitimize it or make it permissive. This is what I'm talking about being a bad faith far right actor. Listen to what he just said. What is the implication here? Also, just because a viewpoint is mainstream, does that mean that corporations have to permit it in their TOS? You could have a social media company that in their TOS says you can never use the preposition is. You can't use it. You can never say something is something. I hate analogies, okay? You can never say is. If you ever say is, I'll fucking ban you. And that's totally fucking legal. That's totally fucking legal. But I would go so far as to say that using the preposition is actually a mainstream view. That you should be able to use the term is. So his disingenuous suggestion that Ben Shapiro's views on trans people are mainstream, they're not. They're not held by any institution with any credibility on the subject. They're mainstream only in the eyes of bigots. His misleading assertion that just because a form of bigotry is mainstream, that it should be permitted in TOS, and the suggestion that that there's any kind of like opinion levied framing between, oh, it's just left people just have this opinion, right people just have this opinion. Yeah, the right people's opinion, the right leaning people's opinion stands in opposition not only to common decency, but also to medical, scientific, academic consensus. So there really is no like equal binary here.
So I guess what I would say is, what we've discussed so far in our conversation seems to be, number one, we agree, and it's not whether I see a 6 and you see a 9. We agree that political orientation is not a protected class. That part we agree with.
But this gets us into a bigger question.
Well, we'll get to the bigger
Oh God.
question, but let's handle it at the micro first.
So I would say no to that.
It's not a protected class. Good.
No.
Oh, you're saying it is a protected class?
It is. Yeah, in DC it is, which means...
Well, okay, but out...
In DC, wait, no, it's not. DC is not a state. It has a different set of, it's a fucking... Was it a territory? It has a different set of laws. You can't be like, oh, yeah, it is in D.C. Like, no, fuck off.
So most people don't live in D.C., right?
But it doesn't matter. Should a national company have to abide by local jurisdictions for those jurisdictions?
I think it would be an impossible standard for a company that is a multinational company to be expected to abide. I mean, as a practical matter, it seems impossible to enforce.
Chew on head. I'll radicalize.
They already do it. Twitter already enforces per jurisdiction.
On the basis of IP address.
I believe the answer is yes. I don't know how they enforce the laws of other countries, but they do.
And what if you signed up for Twitter in DC but are tweeting from Arizona? Which law gets enforced?
Probably Arizona, I'd imagine.
And is that based on what's that based on?
This is one of the biggest civic challenges I think we're facing is...
No, it's really not. Businesses have to follow federal law, not provincial fucking law, not territorial law. Even if Twitter was started up in Washington, D.C., if they went global, I'm pretty sure that they, as an American business, would be adhering to American federal law, not to like weird, like the D.C. specific legal protections afforded only in this incorporated territory. I'm pretty sure federal law specifically applies here. Now, you could say that because Twitter does not consider political belief to be a protected class, that in DC specifically, Twitter couldn't have like outreach, or their outreach could be prohibited in some respects, but that doesn't mean the business would have to respect it.
Yeah. These companies are in a digital world. You know, so it's hard to know at what level we can actually enforce these things. Honestly, it's
But I guess so. The question then becomes one of regulation, right? If Twitter's terms of service are, I mean, okay, let's take it, let's build it back. So we started at the top with an example, and we're going down. Let's just for a second, as a thought.
Ooh, shoe on head. He's not a nice boy. Shoe on head. He's an alt-right conspiracy theorist who props up white nationalism and fascism. Shoe on head. You can't be permissive of people just because they talk and sound nice. This boy deserved to die, as do all fascists. That how it be. I'm sorry.
Experiment, reverse it, and build it from the bottom. We started at the top with an example, and we're going down. Let's just for a second, as a thought experiment, reverse it and build it from the bottom up. Can businesses exist that have perspectives on how transgender people are treated within their businesses? Is that acceptable legally?
I actually don't necessarily. I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I'm not asking rhetorically. I think the answer is...
I'm sorry. The answer is actually no in many jurisdictions. The answer is actually no.
What do you mean?
There's been the new human rights laws that are emerging around, like in New York, Philly, New Jersey, and now with the Equality Act. I don't know specifically about the Equality Act, but I do know that at least in New York, you cannot take self-expression into account for how you have your business. So what ends up happening is any new build can't have a men's or women's room. They can't create special circumstances for people based on their identity, and literally identity as a whole. It could be anything. You could be
What? You're saying there are cities that are prohibiting buildings from erecting gendered bathrooms? What the fuck is he talking about? What cities did he just mention?
Have like in New York, Philly, New Jersey, and now
New York law, no gender bathrooms. Safety and equal. The Commission on Human Rights has launched the nation's first government-led citywide ad campaign. Wait, this is just an ad campaign affirming people's ability to use the bathrooms of their choice. This isn't a law. What? No. Listen, I have nothing against implementing non-gendered bathrooms. I do not think any laws have been passed that have made it illegal to erect gendered bathrooms. Okay, earlier, when did this come out? Okay, from 2015? That's pretty recent. Okay, earlier this month, New York State Assembly, Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act for the 8th time, bar once and for all discrimination based on the gender identity expression in big cities, small, the Empire State. What? Okay, listen. My loyal fucking children, okay? I'm going to continue with the video. If any of you find anything about the cities Philly, New Jersey, or New York implementing legislation that forbids the construction of gendered bathrooms, I want to see it.
the Equality Act. I don't know specifically about the Equality Act, but I do know that, at least in New York, you cannot take self-expression into account for how you have your business. So what ends up happening is any new build can't have a men's or women's room. They can't create special circumstances for people based on their identity, and literally identity as a whole. It could be anything. You could be a furry. You could be whatever. So they're making neutral bathrooms, just single rooms with no markings on them for everybody.
But
yeah, but obviously there are some institutions that are large enough that they can't have just like literally like 24 gender neutral bathrooms. Are you saying if a new airport was constructed in New York, then rather than having these giant men's and women's bathrooms that each have like 24 toilets in them, they would instead have like 800 single bathroom stalls that would just be spread haphazardly around the airport? What the fuck is he saying?
let's see if we can maybe boil it down to a specific example. David Pakman in Boston, Massachusetts. I have a company, I've got 100 employees, and I've got an employee handbook, and my employee handbook says, here is the policy for time off, here's how you request vacation, here is how tardiness and absenteeism will be handled, and as a matter of policy, we refer to people with the gender pronouns that they request. Would there be anything legally problematic about that?
I think the answer is no, because it actually falls under civil rights protection. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I think,
but the point is, I would be able to establish my business as long as I'm not violating anyone's, as long as I'm not, violating protected classes. I would be allowed to do that.
Actually, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I'd argue a First Amendment argument is the answer is no. You can't make someone speak.
Oh, I'm not making anyone speak. I'm just saying that as a matter of company policy, we refer to people on the basis of the pronoun that is associated with their gender identity.
What? Did Tim Pool just say that a company policy of referring to people by their preferred gender pronouns would violate the First Amendment? Tim Pool! Please, he's got nothing under. He's got nothing under here. Nothing. He's got nothing under this fucking cap. It's beans or rice. He's got something filling it. It can be company policy that you have to refer to everyone in there. What was it? SpongeBob, take it away. No, not that one.
I'm a goofy goober, yeah. You're a goofy goober, yeah.
It can be corporate policy to have to refer to everyone in the confines of the building as a goofy goober or a goofy goober fun time employee or the goobsters, okay? You can have a corporate policy to do fucking whatever. Free speech? Tim! Tim! Okay. Yeah, hey, with Walmart greeters, when they say like, "Hello, have a good time shopping here." Did you realize that's a violation of your First Amendment right because you can't actually compel speech from somebody? Fucking kill me.
I'm not forcing anyone to say anything. You can sit there at your computer and write emails and not talk to anybody. It's just a company policy, right? I'm just saying that's the policy of the company.
If you don't enforce
All right, super fighting robot. You said something that agrees with me. You're back in my good graces.
it, I mean, it's actually a tough question. I'm not a lawyer. I wouldn't be able to answer.
And Fraser Lang, you're right. I do have a degree in sociology.
I mean,
Because
I
I
guess
think-
what we're building to though is, at a certain point, if it's not violating someone's status as a member of a protected class by intent, as we already talked about, intent and impact are sort of two different things. I don't know legally how we tell Twitter they can't have a policy on how people should be gendered.
I think it's an issue of developing the civic and figuring out where we draw the line. And I think you
This is all Tim Pool has to say. In his own videos, he goes on this tirade on conservative censorship and how free speech is being destroyed and how the left wants to kick all conservatives off. And then David Pakman asks a simple question like, how do you want to implement this? Like, what do you want? And he's like, well, I don't know. You just have to figure out where the lines are. I don't know. It's very complicated. It's very nuanced. Oh, somebody just provided a link that might refer to his claim earlier about the illegality of constructing gendered bathrooms. Let me see. Click. Transgender bathroom access laws and yeah. I'm familiar with this. This just means that you have to construct gender-neutral bathrooms. So people like me who are constantly humiliated in public for the girth of their penis, like when I flop it out, it looks like a leech, you know, that's just drank too much blood, but much bigger. Just this big bulgy fat, like you could pop it. I always get made fun of, so they put out gender-neutral bathrooms so I can get in there, just like single stall ones. Yeah, but this has nothing to do with making gendered restrooms illegal, like you said.
disagree that Twitter should, and I think the line is probably in a different place.
I'm not even
if
sure,
you-
honestly. Like, I'm not. I totally get your point, which is,
All right, let's do it. As we last left off, Tim Pool and David Pakman wimpily slap fighting each other at the center of the ring. No one's even close to the ropes. Nothing of value is being said. Let's keep it going. We'll rewind like 10 seconds.
the civic and figuring out where we draw the line. And I think you disagree that Twitter should, and I think the line is probably in a different place.
I'm not even
if
sure,
you-
honestly. Like, I'm not. I totally get your point, which is,
So
you know,
so
what
the-
about accidental misgendering, right? Like, I mean, I think that creates more, even more. I think the gendering on Twitter thing is an edge case, and I resist sometimes the instinct to get drawn into edge cases as representative of the whole.
Can I hear that again? I was setting up chat.
You know,
So
what
the-
about accidental misgendering, right? Like, I mean, I think that creates more, even more. I think the gendering on Twitter thing is an edge.
Literally nobody on Earth, not a single human being, not the fullest little FJW libcuck pitching up $5 to the nonprofit that donates their money to the think tanks that donate to the lobbyists that donate to the politicians. Nobody thinks that accidentally misgendering should be a crime. Nobody believes this. I accidentally misgender people. I do it. Everyone does it, okay? Guys, it's fine. We're in the truth zone right now. Some transgender people don't really pass. And it can be hard to tell at a glance what their assigned or chosen gender is or whatever. It sucks, but okay. That's a fact. Nobody wants to make accidental misgendering illegal. Literally nobody. To even entertain this diversion, this suggestion, is to concede ground to Tim Pool, because it gives credence to people who very falsely believe that there is any chance whatsoever of accidental misgendering being made criminal.
Edge case, and I resist sometimes the instinct to get drawn into edge cases as representative of the whole. But even within this edge case, what about accidental misgenderings? I mean, I don't know.
People have been banned for that.
Yeah,
There was a
Who? Christ almighty, my desk is so fucking small. Please, who? I need to know. Who the fuck has been banned for accidentally misgendering somebody? I really need to know.
Yeah, that may be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there was a post that went viral where someone responded to, it was a cartoon avatar, because it's like people do that, and they said, dude, comma, listen, X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C, and they got suspended for misgendering for saying dude, and dude wasn't even meant to be, gendered. It was meant to be like a gender neutral, like exclamatory.
Yeah.
Actually,
I sincerely doubt this. So somebody just said, "Hey, dude," da 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 da, to a cartoon avatared person who gave no other gendered signifiers, and that was a ban. And if it was, and listen, Twitter's a big fucking place. Lots of people on it, okay? If that was a ban, it was an accidental ban, okay? Somebody hit a report and someone just like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. This isn't a Twitter policy. Nobody in actual policy has said, yeah, we're going to ban people who accidentally misgender. This counts as transphobic harassment. This doesn't happen. This isn't a problem. I call lots of people dude. Vosh, please, these people exist. No, they really fucking don't. Nobody out there wants to make it criminal to accidentally misgender people, nor to make it bannable or anti-TOS on social media platforms. That would be ridiculous. Are you kidding me? Everyone who interacts with trans people has at some point in their life engaged in accidental misgendering. Nobody wants this.
Actually, one really fascinating thing we're seeing with the backfiring of a lot of these laws is there are now certain, like anti-SJW types that...
Wait, backfiring of what laws? Whoa. David Pakman, you have to call him on this shit. Backfiring? How? And what laws? The only laws that you discussed, which I last saw yesterday, because it's been a day since I began this video, the only laws that were discussed were when you said that in Jersey, Philly, and New York City, they were making it illegal to construct gendered bathrooms, and then we looked it up and found out that that's not true at all. You just lied. You just lied. You just lied to all of us. So what laws are we referring to exactly? Are you talking about Twitter TOS, or are you talking about actual U.S. legislation? What is going on? What the fuck are you saying? And why isn't David Pakman doing more to challenge this man?
that have asserted pronouns in their profiles to get people banned who refuse to use it. So it's weaponizing it.
Yeah, well, wait. You just said that accidental misgendering was being made like against Twitter TOS, but now you're saying that people who put their pronouns in their bio are doing so to get people who deliberately refuse to use those pronouns banned. That's deliberate misgendering. If you look at a person's bio and you see she, her, and you say he, him, this guy, that's deliberate misgendering. He just look at how Tim Pool right there just subtly, that cute little victim blame right there. Like, oh yeah, they're trying to get accidental misgendering prohibited under Twitter TOS as well. Can you believe them? Believe it or not, some of them will put their preferred pronouns on their bio so that if you refuse to use them, then you get banned. Well, sorry, Tim Pool. That's you deliberately ignoring their pronouns, which is transphobic harassment. Ooh.
I don't know about that. And again, I feel like once we get into the way people misuse policy or take advantage of edge cases, I don't know that that's how I would be making policy necessarily. I think we kind of got to what, for me, the crux of this stuff is about the legality of it and about, at a certain point, and
the constant conflation, by the way, between legislative policy and Twitter TOS is really fucking me up here. Because Tim Pool keeps talking about Twitter TOS, but then he'll imply he's talking about law. And David Pakman is talking exclusively about law right now.
Want social media platforms regulated as if they were government entities, because that's eventually kind of the key question, right, Tim? Like, do we consider these to be public square entities that should be governed in a different way?
We do have some rulings already. There's two. There was one specifically about Trump. You can't block people because you've created a public forum.
Right.
And so he still has some people blocked, to my understanding. The other was, I believe it was called like Packingham versus North Carolina, where the Supreme Court recently unanimously ruled that the government cannot constrain access to online services because it's where people get their information, do commerce, find jobs. And to do so would be a restriction of, individual liberty. You'd have to read the exact ruling, but they essentially said social media is the new digital square.
Wrong! Those two things have nothing to do with the assertion that social media is the new public square. You little lying cunt. The first law there was about Donald Trump, who uses his personal Twitter account in the function of the official United States of America presidential Twitter account, okay? So him banning people from that account to prevent people from looking at his tweets is, in effect, to determine who is and who is not privy to the word, the official word of the official office of the United States of America. That has nothing to do with whether or not Twitter is a public commons. And secondly, the second piece of legislation he discussed there had nothing to do with social media. It had to do with whether or not the government could restrict your access to the internet as a whole. Not any particular corporation on the internet, not any particular service on the internet, but merely the internet as a whole because of how integral it is to modern society. Neither of those cases indicate that Twitter is the new public square, that people should have a guaranteed First Amendment right to organize and participate in that place. Ooh, very slippery, Tim Pool. Slipping on that pool water, that dredged fucking mosquito-infested pool water that's poured out, beans and all, from underneath that beanie and drenched the floor near you.
And because of that, no law can be passed in this country that would take someone's right to this platform away.
No law can be passed that'll take away somebody's access to the internet, you fuck. Not to Twitter, to the internet. I can't believe that David Pakman is letting him slide in this shit. I know that Pakman is smart enough to recognize that Tim Pool is BSing here. Or is he not? Is Pakman just going to let him get... Well, I don't know. Maybe he'll respond and say something cogent.
So we're getting there.
Yeah, and now remember, Tim, there is one thing, there is a caveat there, which is passing a law that takes away someone's access to the platform is sort of one standard. That would not preclude the removal of specific pieces of content, even if they...
Nope. He didn't challenge Tim Pool on that assertion. Fuck! This is why you can't have fucking moderate fucking lefties who are all civil and about the decorum with people like Tim Pool. Tim Pool lies every other sentence. Even if you don't have access to what I have access to right now, which is the enhanced cognitive abilities of hindsight, where I'm not engaging with this convo in real time, and B, a chat which can fact check Tim Pool and myself live. Even without these two things, David Pakman is unquestionably smart enough to recognize that Tim Pool just said 2 points that didn't back up his conclusion. Tim Pool just said, oh, well, people have said that President Trump shouldn't ban people on his Twitter, and the courts have ruled that you can't ban people off the internet. Therefore, First Amendment speech protection should apply to Twitter. That conclusion does not follow from the premises listed, but he's not getting him on it. This is infuriating.
disproportionately affect particular groups of people. Like, do we agree that these are different standards?
Well, I brought this ruling up specifically not to say that they're going to do something, but that the Supreme Court's personal view is that social media is a public square.
Nope. That is not what they said. They said you can't ban people off the internet. That has nothing to do with social media. It has nothing to do with First Amendment protections. It has everything to do with the fact that our modern digitized economy necessitates the ability to engage with the internet in order to live a healthy, functional life. To order shit online, most places you apply for, like with jobs, you have to do so online now as well. To ban somebody off the internet forever would permanently cripple them. They would have a harder time doing everything in their life. They probably wouldn't be able to find a job. They probably wouldn't be able to pay rent. They probably wouldn't be able to apply for benefits. They probably wouldn't be able to find other people. They probably wouldn't be able to access resources necessary to dig them out of the hole. A person is dead without the internet, okay? That has nothing to do. There is such a wide fucking gap between being banned from the internet and believing that people should have First Amendment rights protections on Twitter. Jesus fucking Christ.
So there's no restrictions or on platforms what they can or can't do yet, but the opinion of the Supreme Court is that it is the digital public squares.
Nope.
So I think we're really close to getting regulation. Texas, California, and Florida have already proposed them. Florida's failed. Texas is based on if a platform says they're neutral, but they're not, then they have to, like, there's a remedy for that. I don't know. I think it's the AG sues them. And then with California, It's a shocking law. It just says straight up, any social media site based in California can't restrict someone for political affiliation or the political content of what they post.
Yeah, I disagree with that piece of proposed legislation.
Well, I mean, that would be exactly what we're talking about. That would be sort of government saying, even though this is not a protected class according to the Civil Rights Act or the non-discrimination, any of that, these are additional government provisions, which I think if someone is a small government conservative, so to speak, they should probably be opposed to it, right?
The only reason conservatives want to pass this legislation to implement federal regulations on what a business can do is because they're well aware of the fact that they pander pretty much all the time with white nationalists, Nazis, white supremacists, and other people who themselves very often entail a violation to the TOS of policies. So if they introduce legislation saying, and by the way, legislation that would add an additional protected class exclusively to social media companies would be like a bombshell legislation. Don't underestimate how huge this would be. This would be like a massive violation of business autonomy and a huge blow against us, because the only pragmatic policy that this could possibly serve is to ensure that the center right and the far right can collaborate with one another without fear that they'll drag each other down with their constant threats of rape and murder and genocide and barbarism and harassment and accusations and doxing and what have you. The only conceivable benefit to this is that maybe if that got passed, I can go full Antifa super soldier and talk about guillotines and shit on Twitter, and nobody could knock me off the platform because I could say it's my authentically held political belief. But something tells me that those protections passed by right-wingers, supported by right-wingers, and demagogued for by alt-right neo-Nazis, something tells me those policies are going to be written in a way that particularly favors the right. I don't know. Ooh, I don't know. I got a feeling. Zoe, everyone in this stream should stop calling themselves left-wing. Zoe, that's interesting. Could you tell me why I and the people in this stream are not left-wing? I would be very interested to know.
And most of them are actually.
Oh, okay, so, yeah. I don't talk to enough of them to know.
so they are, but a lot of them are for regulation because I think for the most part, one thing that it's a big group of people with varying ideologies. Some of them are kind of centrist, center right, and so they're going to be for regulation or whatever. And a lot of them are going to be laissez-faire. Never. And I am not laissez-faire. So for me, I think
a bunch of laissez-faire people have come out supporting government regulation of the ability for social media corporations to ban people for violations of TOS, though. It's really funny. It's almost as though the people have no principles whatsoever and will just blindly follow whatever ideology gives them the most power. Much in the same way that libertarianism... Oh, it's really interesting. Libertarianism claims to be blind to privilege and prejudice, just very much an meritocratic approach towards how people should rise and sink in society. But it's fascinating how almost pretty much every libertarian or libertarian leaning person throughout history has also been a massive fucking racist. It's just really weird, this strange conflation between these values. It's almost as though right-wingers don't care about anything other than ensuring that they occupy the top billing in the social hierarchy, and they'll support whatever political or economic system ensures they get to do just that.
I think we face a big challenge. Donald Trump is only on Twitter. When he tweets something, it affects the world. Mm-hmm. For a private company to say you don't get to stand in front of this man or respond to him terrifies me, right? Because think about this: someone could tweet to Donald Trump, "You're an effing blah 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 blah," and Twitter can be removed. I don't like the idea of a private company telling me I'm not allowed to yell at the president. But the issue here is the scale. If Trump were going to a different venue, and I got kicked out of one, I'd be like, well, I'll go to the next one and tell him he's the C word. But if there's only one place where he's at, and the private company is using their authority to basically dictate what you can or can't, that terrifies me.
Disingenuous. Right now, Tim Pool is suggesting that the problem here is that people can't tell Donald Trump that he's a shithead without getting banned off Twitter, which is wrong. Yeah, you can. You can absolutely do that. You can tweet right now. All of you right now can tweet at I don't know what his Twitter handle is, at the real Donald Trump. Go fuck yourself. I hate you, you piece of shit. You're not going to get banned off Twitter for that. That's totally fine. As long as you don't threaten the president of the United States of America, yeah, you can do that. You're clean. So right now, Tim Pool is saying that we need to implement First Amendment free speech legislation, which applies to and which restricts social media corporations from banning people for certain behaviors, and he's doing so to say we need to protect people who can already do the thing that he's referring to. Because you know what else would solve the problem he just mentioned? If we made it so Donald Trump couldn't block people on Twitter. But that was already discussed. And you know who disagreed with that? Right-wingers.
You know,
Sure. I mean, I think that the counter side of it is not that I'm steel manning, and the anti-regulation crowd, but there is a sort of perspective that businesses should not be regulated by the government. They shall not be regulated by the government beyond what is deemed absolutely necessary. And then it just becomes a debate over whether what you're suggesting is absolutely necessary. And then that's a mess. And I don't know where we go.
Every argument that Tim Pool has made in favor of this legislation has been either an outright lie or completely misinformed.
But here's the thing, right? Let's forget the conservatives.
Yep.
Are you familiar with Mafic Media?
No.
So Mafic is always going to get a shout out from me. They're anti-war leftist, pro-Bernie, anti-intervention, but they receive I think their company is half owned by Ruptly, which is Russia Today.
Sure.
So they got suspended by Facebook, and they didn't break any rules, and they were suspended for I think like a week and a half, and it was because CNN reached out to Facebook, said, "Hey, did you see these guys are funded by Russia?" Waited until Facebook took them down. And then CNN publishes this story. Gotcha. We found the Russian media.
Right.
Another example is Twitter removed 2,000
I would love to see an article on that. That seems like some pretty harsh journalistic malpractice, but I wouldn't put it past CNN, you know?
pro-Maduro accounts. I'm not saying you should be for or against Maduro, but when these things fly under the radar, I think because the left isn't as tuned in, the right is tuned in heavily. It's like Donald Trump's
I don't know that I would like to see evidence for the assertion about.
Can you please stop clan ganging? What do you possibly need to wash? Hyena.
Huh.
Why? What are you washing?
A bowl.
Why?
For ramen? What?
I cannot wait. We're moving soon, and I'm gonna have my stream set up not 3 feet from the kitchen.
Yeah, I'm hyped. I can finally do whatever I want.
It's like it's constant.
I'm done after this. We woke up so recently. Why are you bothering me?
Because clan gang every time I stream. This is why I wait for you to be at school.
I know you hate it.
Yes, I hate it.
But they like
And
it.
my ability to engage in efficacious political rhetoric is determined in large part by my ability to concentrate.
I am sorry. I love you. I'm just trying to eat.
I love you
I
too.
made us rice too, and it's really good.
Okay, you pressed a button on a rice cooker. You still clan
Yeah, but I
gang.
made us rice. You're so mean.
All right, I love you.
Literally suck.
Okay, I love
I'm
you.
gonna keep making noise just for that.
No, I'll end the stream. Hey, you all want that? Hey, if Hyena keeps this shit up, I'm ending the stream. Do you guys want that? We'll do a 3-day fucking protracted Tim Pool versus Pakman identity politics, free speech, and platform YouTube video analysis. Oh, they don't want it. They want you to stop. I'm holding them hostage.
Say
All right.
sorry.
I love you. I'm sorry.
Okay, I love you. Mwah.
Okay. Can we focus? What the fuck is wrong with you people?
tuned in. The right is tuned in heavily. It's like Donald Trump's
I don't know that I would like to see evidence for the assertion about who's tuned in, because I think that, making any kind of broad claim like that, I would want to be super clear on where that's coming from. Sometimes people pay attention to something and they don't comment. So, I think there's different ways to measure that.
But
I think the question, though, is were the accounts removed because they were pro-Maduro? If so, I mean, again,
wait, what about what's
for the assertion about who's
right is, but when these things fly under the radar, I think because the left isn't as tuned in, the right is tuned. Twitter removed 2,000 pro-Maduro accounts. I'm not saying you should be for or against Maduro, but when these things fly under the radar, I think because the left isn't as tuned in, the right is tuned in heavily. It's like Donald Trump's
I don't know that I would like to see evidence for the assertion about who.
I did hear about a lot of pro-Maduro accounts getting removed off Twitter. I think I did hear about that. I don't think he's lying on that one.
Who's tuned in, because I think that, making any kind of broad claim like that, I would want to be super clear on where that's coming from. Sometimes people pay attention to something and they don't comment. So, I think there's different ways to measure that.
But
I think the question, though, is were the accounts removed because they were pro-Maduro? If so, I mean, again, I don't even think there's anything illegal about that. We can argue it should be illegal, right? Which is what you and I are talking about.
Exactly.
It's not currently illegal. But I would be
agree, it's
curious
not
what the content of the messages were, because it's possible. I just don't know enough about that particular incident.
Twitter.
Well, the problem here is that pro-Maduro is not a violation of Twitter TOS. Twitter TOS stands against like hatred, harassment, bigotry, what have you. There's nothing anti-TOS about Maduro accounts at all. You can make an argument against Twitter removing pro-Maduro accounts without arguing that we need to implement free speech First Amendment protections on Twitter. These two arguments are completely unrelated. What did these Maduro accounts do? Were these Maduro accounts like threatening people and doxing and harassing and engaging in other anti-TOS behavior? Or were they just sitting there being pro-Maduro and then they got knocked off Twitter because Twitter is run by the same fucking neocons who benefit from the narrative that Venezuela is a socialist shithole that needs like U.S. intervention to correct? Is this pro-Maduro stuff satire? There's nothing satirical about being pro-Maduro, okay?
Referred to it, I believe, and again, you Google it. They said something like it was interference or governmental interference or something, and
governmental interference? I don't know what they mean by this.
They were, I believe, they were quoted as saying, though they didn't have direct evidence, something like that. I don't know the full details. I just know that what I end up seeing is the anti-war left, people who essentially oppose the machine in various capacities, are excised. Excuse me. And it's going to happen that they're going to. CNN's already laying the stones against Bernie. You know what I mean? They had all those people at the CNN who are working for these lobbying groups. Yeah. I don't like the idea of the.
Yeah, but none of this is going to be changed. Again, this is the Mott and Bailey right here. Okay, right now Tim Pool is making points that seem halfway decent. Hey, Twitter is banning people for just supporting a candidate. Hey, Twitter is kowtowing to the interests of huge media conglomerates who are trying to like throw out bias against certain politicians. But then he's advocating for something that wouldn't address any of this. Forcing social media corporations to protect people or to not discriminate against people for their political affiliations wouldn't have any effect on any of this. Corporations like CNN would still be able to astroturf like crazy, and Twitter could still make up whatever bullshit fake government interference shit they used as a justification for deleting the pro-Maduro accounts. This wouldn't fix anything that Tim Pool is talking about. The only thing that the implementation of these rules could conceivably do, the only thing Tim Pool is actually advocating for, is legislation which will protect white nationalists. Remember why all of this got started. This did not get started because the Maduro accounts were banned. This did not get started because of fucking CNN running interference against Bernie. This got started because a group of white nationalists got banned off Twitter and Facebook and what have you. Do not forget the origins of this. There is a reason why this sudden outcry, oh yeah, we're not doing it to protect any political affiliation. We just want to, we have to protect these people. Take a look at Tim Pool's YouTube channel, okay? You want to see? You want to look right now? Look, if you Google, I'm pretty up there. If you Google Tim Pool and take a look at his shit, he has made video after video after video about how conservative thought is going to die out without protection from the legislation he's referring to. This video right here, conservative news added to blacklist. This one, standing for Paul Joseph Watson, how the purge of the right has begun. This one, talking about how the left wants to stop people from ending the censorship and wants more censorship. This one, Republicans push new laws to end political censorship. This one, Republicans face extinction without free speech protections. That's 5 consecutive videos of him explicitly stating that his motivations for the pushing of this legislation is to protect right-wing people. Nazis like Paul Joseph Watson, Nazis like Lauren Southern, Nazis like Milo Yiannopoulos. But then he comes on to justify this legislation. He's like, oh, yeah, well, CNN is being mean to Bernie, and they also lied about a Russia Today thing, and also these pro-Maduro accounts got targeted. He is being 100% disingenuous about his motivations for the pushing of this law, okay? As a general rule, by the way, if people are talking about implementing legislation and all of the people doing so are Nazis or Nazi sympathizers, but I repeat myself, good idea, that law is probably shit. Okay? Just a general, listen, I'm not saying you shouldn't investigate the facts or anything. Please, familiarize yourself with the topic. But as a general rule, if people are making arguments like, oh yeah, we need to do this and this because corporations have too much power, and then you zoom out a little bit and it's just Nazis. It's just all Nazis making the points. Maybe be a little skeptical. Vosh, you say you care most about being efficacious. Would you change your mind on civility if it were proven to make debate more efficacious? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, easily. If somebody could prove to me that being civil in debate would bring over more of the constituent demographic that I'm specifically trying to target because I feel they're underrepresented in the list of people that left tubers tend to target, 100% I would act civil. Yeah, I care about praxis more than anything. All right, let's focus.
The massive machine restricting access to the new public square. It may be that I'm in front of the market.
I know the new public square is a term he's fond of because it subtly reinforces his point, but it's not a new public square. No, that has not been legally recognized to meet that description.
I'm a very technological individual. I was in the hacker community. So I think maybe the things I'm seeing.
You're using the same rhetorical tools to blanket your opponent that Tim Pool is? Well, and you're banned. Fucking idiot. You said, how the fuck am I using the same? Yeah, me pointing out that Nazis are promoting this legislation to promote Nazi interests is not the same as Tim Pool just lying about why it is he wants to do something. These two things are incomparable. But at least now your idiocy can't pollute my fucking YouTube chat.
Are more alarming to me because I'm watching them develop, but it maybe hit the mainstream. But rest assured, they're going to ban everybody arbitrarily if they have the power to ban everybody arbitrarily, and that includes.
No, they wouldn't. Social media corporations make money off of your participation on the website. Generally speaking, the only time a social media corporation is going to ban something off of their website is if they believe the damage done by their presence on that website outweighs the positive cash flow they get from having those people there.
Include somebody who wants to call Donald Trump the C word.
That may be.
What did the C word? Cunt? You can call Donald Trump a cunt. Wait. Trying to get an illuminative answer on this one. Apparently, this falls under harassing behavior. All right, never mind. Don't call Donald Trump a cunt, okay? We wouldn't want to harass the President of the United States of America.
I'm curious. I mean, the type of regulation you're describing that would apply to Twitter or Facebook, for example, should it be also applied equally to the content on websites like Reddit and 4chan?
So, well, they're different sites, and this is the.
No, I know that they're different sites. Yeah.
So I just mean to say the structure of the algorithm and how they function is different.
Yes.
And there's a serious challenge because I'll say this too. I believe that if right now the U.S. government said Supreme Court unanimous, Twitter can no longer remove people for hate speech or whatever, Twitter would probably just fall apart.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. Guys, one day after a ruling is made that Twitter can't ban people for hate speech, the entire website goes to absolute shit. Every day, my mentions would just be the N-word, just full stack scrolling through the N-word.
It's gonna get overrun by the nastiest insanity. You can't do anything about it.
Who are all on the right.
But it's possible they might also roll out, better moderation tools where people can control what it is that they're seeing. I mean, I think they would manage. I don't think it would be the end of Twitter.
No, I mean if they weren't allowed to moderate based on legal speech.
Right. No, the idea would be there might be abandonment because it becomes such a horrible experience for a lot of users. But I think they'd roll out moderation tools that users can use for themselves.
Oh, yeah. Well, then maybe, isn't that a good thing?
Oh, those tools are good no matter what. I have thousands.
Do y'all want me to bring Shu in here? Well, after this video, we're doing Shu on Head's video, so.
Of people muted. But my question is, I know that Reddit and 4chan, Reddit and 4chan are different websites, but what I'm saying is, would you apply the same type of government intervention regulation to them?
It depends on what the government regulation is, because it might have to do with certain technological aspects. So, and again, let me try and clarify. Twitter is a reverse chronological system with a default algorithmic system. Algorithmic versus reverse chronological is going to have entirely different laws.
Right now, Tim Pool is speaking words but saying nothing. Whether or not the specific algorithm for how a website presents its content to the user base has very little to do with whether or not the government passes legislation preventing social media corporations from discriminating based on political affiliation. It doesn't matter if it's Reddit. It doesn't matter if it's Twitter. It might matter if it's 4chan because of how that system works. But broadly, because there's hardly any moderation on 4chan to begin with. You only get banned off 4chan if you're actively running dox threads or if you're posting child porn, right? You have to really fuck up to get banned from 4chan. Whatever the case is, the idea that we have to be what he's doing right now is he's muddying the waters without purpose.
So Twitter's algorithm chooses who to put in front of you. All right, so that you can't regulate who they're promoting. Reverse chronological, you can say it's got to be this way.
Sort
it's
of. I mean, don't you have? I'm trying to remember. I'm spending less and less time on Twitter, but on my Twitter app, I have the option of seeing the sort of what's called like the the curated feed. But I can press a button telling it that I don't want it to make judgments, like show me low quality tweets, show me everything sort of thing. Maybe that's not 100%, but it seems like there's elements of both on Twitter.
No, you're right. You can easily switch between the two.
Right.
So the issue would be, like, I think YouTube's an easier example. When you go to youtube.com, it shows you 15 videos. You might have 1,000 subscriptions.
Sure.
So YouTube has to choose who you're going to see. That's promotion. I don't think YouTube's under any obligation to promote your content.
Okay.
In terms of your subscription tab, however, it should notify you that the person you're following has a new video, and you can choose to click it and go to their channel.
What are we talking about right now? This has nothing to do with government free speech legislation.
Fair.
So algorithmic versus reverse chronological are very different. If I say I follow you and I want to see your tweet when it happens, and that's how the system works,
right?
And we put a regulation in place, it would be specific to that feed, which is part of the challenge.
Yeah, but again, so I mean, on Reddit, you can hit the new feed, which will show you reverse chronological, or you can hit the hot feed, which is a sort of popularity-based algorithm. So again, it seems like the difference you're pointing out that is making you fall short of saying Reddit and 4chan should be regulated the same way is not really that much of a difference. So, I mean, if you don't think Reddit and 4chan should be regulated the same way.
The only reason that Tim Pool is making these arguments for Twitter and not for Reddit or 4chan is because conservative demagogues need Twitter for public outreach and they don't need Reddit or 4chan. It's really that simple. If there was a massive conservative base, if there were a bunch of like big conservative figures on Reddit that were getting like booted off the platform for hate speech or whatever, then he would switch 100%. He'd make the exact opposite argument that he doesn't really care about Twitter because of the algorithms. But if you look at Reddit, actually, Reddit's algorithm when you're on the hot feed determines what it is you need to see. And I don't feel they're under any obligation to provide that algorithm specifically. But then if you look specifically at how it'd be the exact same shit, just reversed. He's just a puppet for the alt-right.
That's a totally legitimate position to take. I would just want to know that.
I think in terms of user, so Reddit isn't an algorithm. What gets upvoted is based on what the community chooses to push.
What? Okay. Nothing. Never mind. Reddit isn't an algorithm.
Forward.
Yes, although there are always questions as to whether that is a complete representation of what the community is voting for or whether Reddit is influencing it. But in theory, that's what it is. Okay.
I mean, if people don't vote, what do you do? Like, we want to encourage them to vote. If they don't, that's what they get. In fact, I believe it's called the 1% rule, that 1% of users on Reddit are the ones making the content go to the top. Sure. 99% just absorb it.
I mean, I think that's the same on Twitter, though, because most people don't like, reply, or retweet tweets that they read, right?
It's true. No, you're right. You're right. I got to be honest, though, man. I really...
So the past 5 minutes has meant nothing because it turns out that Reddit and Twitter on a fundamental level use similar algorithmic equations to determine who gets to see what. And both of them, the popularity of user-submitted content is determined by likes and retweets or upvotes. And in both of them, there's nothing. It was just a waste of time. Thank you, Tim Pool. I only have so many years of my life. So when I'm listening to right-wingers talk, I want them to not make me feel as though my time is being wasted. But Tim Pool is a fucking expert. He's like a fucking like a necromantic chronomancer or something, okay? That's his big trick. Whenever you watch his videos at a rate of 1 second per second, he's sapping away your life force. Thank you, Tim Pool. You're very powerful.
I can see these problems.
Do you feel Pakman went easy on Tim? Pakman got down on his knees and choked on Tim until his chin hit the balls, okay? This was fucking pathetic. I was expecting... When I saw that clip circulating online of Pakman being like, so you're saying that you oppose identity politics as informed by your identity politics, and just gave like the face, I was like, okay, cool. We're going to get to see some pushback. I'm going to get to analyze both sides of this debate. But this was nothing! This was nothing. This was such a waste of time. No points were made. No conclusions were reached. The dialectic was not advanced. Tim Pool wasn't called out on anything. No, I'd never watched Pac-Man before this.
I don't think I know how to solve them, but I do feel
No. I'm just wondering, if there's something that you think is uniquely different where you don't want 4chan and Reddit subjected to whatever regulation you do favor for Twitter.
So regulation will have to be specific based on technology, but they should all be under the same constraints.
Right. Okay.
Fair. I got no special privileges for anybody, but again, acknowledging 4chan isn't an algorithmic system. It's just based on when you comment, it moves to the top. So the difference I'm trying to make, I guess, is that YouTube chooses the winners and losers, and so does Facebook. You can't regulate that.
And Reddit also has algorithms. This is nothing. Wait, please, God.
like Facebook is under no obligation to promote me to anyone.
Right.
If I have a page, you can go to it if you want to, right? So it's different. It's tough. I don't know. Unless someone chooses reverse chronological feed, I don't know.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, listen. I mean, I don't do these like 4-hour streams where we continue beating a dead horse. What I like to do is this is a really good initial conversation. I think my audience and I now have a better sense of sort of where you stand and. I want to think more about these issues, but I think that this has been very, very interesting. And one of the, I mean, political differences aside, because we have them, I hate doing this stuff where I pretend like it's all about the marketplace of ideas and every idea deserves the exact same amount of time. I'm not for any of that bullshit.
You're unironically doing that right now, Pac-Man. Tim Pool has lied dozens of times in this interview, expressed contradictions, performed Mott and Bailey's, and advocated very disingenuously for things he doesn't believe in. And you are smart enough, I know you're smart enough, to acknowledge at least a few of those times. At least half. You got at least half of them. I know I'm not that much smarter than you, Pac-Man. I know you're more capable than you're acting here. You're unironically doing the fucking marketplace of ideas shit.
As you know, but I do think that if we can have actual productive conversations about important issues, even if we have political disagreements, that's still a good thing, and hopefully the audience agrees with that.
Oh, hell yeah, this is what we need to be doing, man. And I want to point out that what you...
This is what we need to be doing. We need to bring on far-right figures, let them pretend they're moderate liberals, and then talk with them for an hour on issues that they're lying about in ways that subtly reinforces their points but doesn't give you an opening to attack them unless you want to compromise that civility. David Pakman is like those... It's like those wannabe YouTubers who want to pretend that they're like a mainstream media corporation. He's got like the cool mic setup and he's got the fancy backdrop with the graphic of the Pac-Man show bouncing around. He's got his shirt done up and he's got his hair all combed over real nice. Listen, I'm sure he's a smart guy and everything. I don't deny that. But he's very clearly trying to emulate like a very milquetoast lefty, like not even lefty, just milquetoast like left liberal version of mainstream media corporations. He just
when the point you made about it's the idea not the identity is extremely important, particularly for me and I think for the conversation, because I think that is being lost, right? The idea that Twitter, we need to separate the...
Pac-Man tries to convert Pool's viewers at strategic. No! None of Tim Pool's viewers are going to watch this and be converted by David Pac-Man because David Pac-Man hasn't made any points or pushed back on anything he's said. All David Pakman has done is asked open-ended questions that Tim Pool gets to lie in response to more. Who would be convinced by this? Who would watch this interview coming in, a fan of Tim Pool, and watch it and think like, oh wow, David Pakman made some good points by staring unblinkingly into the camera and asking open questions. I'm gonna stop being an alt-righter. No!
The idea is for an identity, right?
I think we do. I think we absolutely do.
That's fascinating, actually. I'm gonna think that one.
So if everybody who's watching on my channel, stick around because there's a million super chats that I want to get to. I may even open up the phone lines and all of this stuff. But Tim, we should do this again, maybe on a different topic, maybe on this topic, maybe we bring in somebody else. I mean, who knows? But I think that this has been extraordinarily useful.
David is a good starter. I'm not seeing a good starter. He didn't push back on any of these points. Guys, a good starter to leftism is not somebody who just sits there and lets alt-righters talk and lie for an hour. That's not a good starter. Nobody who came into this a fan of like the alt-right or an alt-righter or reactionary or even just a milquetoast conservative is going to look at David Pakman, who procured no points, who made no arguments, who engaged in no pushback, and whose questions weren't even incisive enough to question like Tim Pool's ideology. Nobody is going to watch this and think like, oh yeah, David you know, I used to think that SJW libcucks were responsible for everything wrong in the world, and also that Jews were responsible for pushing international Jewry and controlling the white man into being subservient to black and brown hordes they bring in from the global south. But no, actually, the way David Pakman combed his hair sure did convince me.
Useful, if not the most. We haven't solved these problems, but at least we've like identified where we see the problems existing.
Let me just give you like my final take on, you know, this is one small piece of a bigger argument that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, Destiny is a good starter for left-leaning shit. I'm a good starter for left-leaning shit. Being a good starter doesn't mean being milquetoast and afraid to express your opinions. Being a good starter means you're the kind of person who can reach out and appeal to the interests of people who disagree with you. And I know for a fact that there are a lot of alt-righters and reactionaries who come over here and are like, fucking triggered libcuck, but because I'm edgy, because I don't care that much about identity politics, and because I'm loud, I have a very easy time bringing them over, because I act like them in a lot of ways.
About it's Amazon is taking over commerce PayPal is taking over transactions.
Right.
Twitter, Facebook, Google are taking over. Like news media in this country is dying, partly because Google and Facebook have monopolized advertising revenue, so they're being strangled. We got to do something about these monopolies, whatever form that takes. Like I'm game to have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, antitrust is once again becoming a major issue. I know Elizabeth Warren's been talking about it.
Oh, you said Starer? Okay.
A little bit, but you're not hearing that much. And part of it is because Democrats and Republicans both are funded by a lot of these same companies that have a vested interest in suppressing competition. That's the bottom line, right?
I like seeing the Republicans call it the Koch brothers now for two reasons: their open borders policy and their refusing to get behind free speech. It makes you wonder, right?
Absolutely.
The right has never cared about free speech. All right, that was cool and fun. A great waste of time.